Are we ready to record? Yes?
It's recording.
All right, everybody. It's 6:30 on November 21st, 2023, and I am opening the Select Board of Wenham's meeting. In attendance is myself, Diane Bucco.
Gary Cheeseman.
Deirdre Parati.
Peter Clay.
Oh, sorry, I stole the mic. We weren't even sharing. Town administration is here, and there's people in the house. Very nice. We're going to start today with public input. We have 10 minutes reserved for public input. Anyone who's wishing to address the Select Board.
Need the mic in front of you.
I was sharing it. Wishing to address the Select Board during public comments may do so in person or via Zoom. Speakers must identify themselves by name and address, and we may or may not deliberate on any matters discussed in public comment. Is there anyone in-house that has anything to share? Anyone on Zoom? I see no one. We do have a phone call in, or a text in, that has come from, the name's not here, so can you tell us the name again? Oh, I'm sorry, it's from Melanie and Kaylin Moldovian at 36 Batchelder Park. This is the public comment. We are 25-plus year residents of Wenham and members of the Pleasant Pond Association from the inception. We clearly remember how dangerous Pleasant Street and Pleasant Pond Beach were before Wenham installed the Pleasant Pond gatekeeper and lifeguard. A Pleasant Street neighbor was killed before Wenham installed a Pleasant Pond Beach gatekeeper and lifeguard. We ask that our town continue to provide a safe recreation area for the Wenham community and not reduce its funding, please. Okay. Thank you very much for that, Mr. and Mrs. Moldovian. We will talk more about Pleasant Pond later. Also in attendance, we have Select Board Member number 5, Ben Timon, coming in.
Thank you. Apologize.
Better late than never. Get yourself comfortable, and we'll hear Town Administrator reports and announcements while you get comfortable. Steve?
Yep. So next Tuesday, the 28th, the CPC will be reviewing their pre-applications for CPC applications. So basically, they're just making sure that the applied for funds and the use fall within the appropriate categories before requesting full applications from the applicants. I worked with Open Space and Kate Mallory and myself, and we put together 2 applications. One came from the Select Board's office, one came from the Open Space Committee, one requesting $1.5 million in open space money to be transferred to the Open Space Fund for authorization to purchase land that falls on the open space matrix that was discussed here a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And the Select Board's office put in a request for a loan authorization for the same. So essentially a standing authorization with anticipation of CPA funds to pay the debt service on a loan for land purchase. The total is still in the works because it's a state, well, it's a formula driven by the CPC coalition that limits the amount you can borrow based on your surcharges in the communities and other obligations. So we're still working through that process to see what the maximum allowable is. But obviously, the loan term and the purchase price would impact that. Thinking was to, we've heard many times that the town is just not ready or in a position to act if a opportunity presents itself, and this is a way of trying to firm up some capital so that the town's in the position to act quickly and not lose out on opportunities as they present themselves. Working with our energy consultants, we're able to secure a 24-month our national grid rate at 13 cents a kilowatt hour, and that's currently the national grid market rate is about 20 cents. So, I think we've been watching them for a while, and I think this was probably the most attractive one that I've seen offered, and our contract was going to expire next month. So we would have gone to the 20 or 21 cents for December, and I believe it's 26 or 27 cents in January. So I think that was a good move. And with those, you never, I mean, they're long-term. You never know what the best move is, but at least I think it's a good move, and it will certainly stabilize our energy costs. Yeah, Jeff Soulard, the finance director, started today, so that's good news. We expect free cash certification hopefully by the end of next week. And that's what he's working on today, is just finalizing that with the outside consultant. And we had a chairs meeting with the school committee and the superintendent and their finance director last night to discuss the preliminary school budget proposal. Right now, the assessment was a small shift in the favor of Wenham, so meaning that based on the 3-year rolling average, there was the slight increase in student body to the Hamilton side. So they were shifted by, I believe it was like 0.7%, so not much, but small. And overall, their first draft is about 3.7, 3.8% increase to Wenham. You'll see later on that we're projecting a 3% overall increase for education spending, and the superintendent is still targeting below the 3%. However, this is just the first draft, and they're continuing to look for savings. We also, right last week, we had the school building committee, right, Peter? If you want to jump in
Sure.
on that, if I miss anything, but we kind of talked through the site selection. The consultants did a thorough review of all available town-owned sites in both Hamilton and Wenham, and ultimately arrived on the Cutler and Winthrop sites to do further review on those. Note on those two are they're both owned by the town of Hamilton and leased to the school district by the select board over in Hamilton. So either one would require another long-term lease. And good news, I know on Facebook and some emails we got.
By the way,
Yeah.
so there was a little question about whether the town of Hamilton was going to get that lease done.
Yeah,
They
so
are.
they are going to do it.
I mean, it'd be ridiculous to let it lapse or not renew.
Yeah, I think it will. It sounded like they had interest in not continuing. Was it the Cutler site?
No, Winthrop.
Winthrop, all right. But the other one, it seemed based on what they were saying that it would be probably likely be okay. And the Cherry Street and Eaton crosswalk should have been painted last week, taking advantage of the good weather. I know there's been some concern down there, some Facebook feedback, a couple emails. So Rich was able to, DPW director was able to take advantage of that small window of warm weather, probably the last we're going to see for this season, and get those painted up. And that is all I have.
Quick question, if I could jump on that. The CPC, the pre-applications, Joe, is this the first time we've done pre-eligibility applications before the applications due?
In a way, yes. My understanding last year, I'm not sure about 3 years prior to that, but it was more simpler of a process. It was just like a simple email that was sent to the chair, and that's the kind of the way they vetted through the applications. This time I think they followed Hamilton with their procedure, and now they want to have a more formal pre-eligibility application. And again, this is just to kind of get you through the door to have apply more fully for the January deadline. So on next Tuesday, they'll be going through them just to making sure they qualify, and I think they're going to be going through the different categories where making sure they match up with the correct categories, the applications. So
Great.
Yeah.
I never knew about that. Okay. I don't have anything else because I missed all the fun Veterans Day things, so I'll start with Gary.
Yeah, I would just say thank you to all that showed up for Veterans Day on the 11th, and especially to the trumpeters that played taps from the high school, and to both the Boy and Girl Scouts that participated and put on the luncheon at noon. It was well attended, and as was the luncheon. Thank you all.
Thank you. Any other announcements?
Yeah, I agree with what Gary said. It was a great event on Veterans Day. It was wonderful. I want to also thank Audubon because I attended the opening of the Cedar Pond property. Congratulations to Audubon, the planning board. Thank you for the work involved in that. It's really a beautiful property. They've done an amazing job with it. I think it's a great addition to Wenham. And it was really a nice ceremony to hear the speakers and to see the enthusiasm that people were there with. It was great. Also, Kate Mallory, myself, and Wynn Mulroney, our tree warden, collaborated on a pre-application for CPC to try to fund the rehabilitation of the Karen Wolf Memorial Garden, which is adjacent to Bucher and across from the Council on Aging. And the idea is to create a Wenham for all ages space that is a multi-generational community space for people to enjoy. It's become overgrown, so we'd like to restore it to its original usability.
That's great. Pete?
Just further on the Audubon property, you really have to go over and see this. It's the first ADA compliant trail in the North Shore. So, I mean, they've literally about 8 feet wide, and it's some kind of gray material that is ADA compliant. It's really crazy. And then the other thing, Kate, is the signage there is stunning. And it's not just at the beginning, it's all along the trail. And I think we have 11 or 12 trails in Wenham that don't have any signage at all. So I think we somehow have to work with, I think it's Ernest and the Open Space Committee.
Yeah, I put in a CPC application for it.
Great. Because
Done.
I think there's a lot of stuff that people can do, especially families, that they just don't know about.
Yeah, we reached out to the Audubon and they got us their sign person and we got some quotes and then I put in an application for it.
Yeah, those are very high-end signs.
Yes.
I would still send you over to the one on Hamilton between the parking lot
Yeah, I
and the
went to
tennis
that,
courts.
it's nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. Great.
that's it.
Ben, any announcements?
Yes, I just wanted to give a shout out to my colleague Peter here and his fellow planning board members, as well as Margaret Hoffman, who led the MBTA Communities information session last Tuesday evening, which I thought was really well done, informative, and laid out, in
Well attended.
and well attended, laid out in summary fashion some of the work that's been done on that, and that's led to some follow-up meetings that are probably going to be taking place over the next week, including with potentially with members of the Housing Authority as it relates to the work on MBTA communities, and so I think it was a really good meeting, and seems to be things seem to be pointing in a positive direction for getting everything ready, and Margaret is sort of leading the charge on all of that.
Can I just add to that? I also want to thank you, because there were some people in that room who there was one who wanted to just make the train station go away. Unfortunately, that person's only been in town for 4 months. And then other people who really wanted to resist, and you came in and said, this is really not something you can resist. We need to find out what the best answer is for us.
No, thank you. That was my view of things, and I think that's generally the view of the decision makers certainly on the planning board, which is really kind of driving the train on this, the train that won't be closed down. So no, thank you for mentioning that. But I think it was important for people in town to understand that this is a state law that has been thoroughly analyzed by a lot of people in town and a lot of people in neighboring towns as well. And there are a lot of open questions about how compliance will work, but I think everyone's working in good faith to try to smartly comply with this particular state requirement.
Awesome. Well, Sleepy Little Wenham is very busy. A lot of love going on here, too. Thank everybody for all their participation and stuff. So we don't have any correspondence, but we do have some new business from our fire department. I was wondering if our chief would get up and speak to us.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to just read To the Select Board, I would like to request the Select Board appoint Kevin Philbrook and Kerry Termaine to provisional call firefighter status for the Wenham Fire Department, pending successful completion of firefighter physical and Cory check. Kerry is actually with us tonight.
Hi, Carrie.
I just want to say a quick hello, I'm Carrie Tremaine. It's an honor. Sorry.
Just because no one can hear you.
Sorry. Hi, Carrie Tremaine. It's an honor to be here and for you to all to maybe perhaps select me as a candidate for the firefighting. And it's always something I wanted to do. I took the exam 30 years ago and I did pretty well, but I never got a call. So life led me elsewhere, but still something I want to do. I thought I missed my chance. Apparently I haven't. So I'm looking forward to whatever happens. So I just want to say thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you for stepping up. That sounds
Thank
great.
you.
Motion maker?
Yes. I move to appoint Kevin Philbrook as a provisional call firefighter for a term beginning November 21st and ending June 30th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
Shall we vote? Ben?
Aye.
Pete?
Yes.
Diane, yes?
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes.
It's a unanimous vote. Thank you, Kevin.
I move to appoint Kerry Termaine as a provisional call firefighter for a term beginning November 21st and ending June 30th, 2024.
Second.
Second, before we vote, is there feedback going on over there that we could fix? Sorry. And we can vote now, Ben?
Yes.
Yes.
Diane says yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes.
It
Thank
is
you very much.
Second unanimous vote. Carrie, thank you so much. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for coming. Appreciate your time. So we have a couple presentations and stuff tonight. No need to leave, but I understand, no problem. So just to keep things moving, I'm going to ask if it's all right with the board, if we kind of ask people to get it in between a 10, 15-minute scenario, maybe just get right to the point would be great. Is everyone okay with that? Yes? Good. Okay, so I think we're going to start with Maplewood's discussion and presentation.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Andrew DeFranza from Harbor Light. It's nice to see you all. This is my first 5-person Board of Selectmen meeting in Wenham, so congratulations on your expanded numbers. I will be under 10 minutes, maybe even less. Wanted to give you a quick overview of Maple Woods, and you have the slide clicker. Are you the person? Okay, thank you. So this is the drawing from way back in about 10 years ago, and it's starting to come to fruition. If you haven't been out there, it looks really great. We'll show you some construction pictures. Next slide, please. So if you don't know us, we're Harbor Light Homes. We adjusted our name. We were Harbor Light Community Partners for about a decade. Did a little bit of a rebrand, and now we're using a different logo in our Harbor Light Homes. These are some of the projects that are ours. On the left is a building in Salem, upper left for homeless individuals in Salem. On the right is an elderly building in Ipswich, close to the river. In the bottom there is Marblehead on the left, Salem in the middle, and Beverly on the right. So we're an affordable housing nonprofit community development organization, and we develop and operate and advocate for housing around the North Shore, so roughly Lynn to Rockport, west to Middleton, about those 20 communities or so, and we're active in about 12 of them currently, including Wenham. Next slide, please. These are the projects you'll see on the left that are some of our current places. You'll see the list of locations. And on the right-hand side, projects that we're working on now. Agawam Village in Ipswich is right off of 1A across from True North Brewery. And that's a big rehab project that's going on right now. Beverly Village is in the old Briscoe School. That project is going on. You may have driven past that. The others are all in process. Catalyst Housing is going to start first quarter of next year, and the other 3 on that list are either permitted and waiting, although the one in Gloucester still has to be permitted. Next slide, please. This is a map of the locations that we are. The gap in the middle there is Essex and Manchester, but never fear, we will eventually make those blue. Been in Manchester and Essex many times looking at sites. You kind of have to find the right one, so we'll keep looking. So that's roughly our footprint, a little bit to the west, and that gives you some sense of volume and numbers about what we're involved with. Next slide, please. This is the Maplewoods inside. A couple of data points for you, though I'm going to assume your interest is in the construction photos and in some of the occupancy, the application data. These are all one-bedroom units, all 62 and above. There is a bunch of formal ADA units, but even those that are not formally ADA have accessibility features to allow people to age in place. Beautiful design, common areas, supportive services on site. This was the project that got Wenham over the 10% for 40B, quite a bit over. All the utilities are included in the cost of the rent, and it's an income tiered project. So there's a 30% median income tier. Those have rental vouchers attached to them, so people pay literally 30% of what they earn. And the 60% tier is a flat number based on state data for our region. Next slide, please. So these are some of the things that you're going to see going on here. There's a lot of different features on the site. It's meant to be sort of a destination site, walking trails outside, community rooms, library, activity areas, lots of nice garden space outside, and it really is quite a beautiful list. The environmental features on the bottom, a lot of those, if folks recall, were a part of a discussion with Wayne Costingway and the Ipswich River Watershed Association back in the day. They asked us to do a number of features to the project that were really environmentally friendly, including the drought-resistant landscaping and the no sprinklers once the plants are set up. They're doing the landscaping actually right now, and it's really coming along very nicely. This is our first LEED Gold certified building that we've ever done. Next slide, please. This gives you a little bit of the layout. It's about 650 square feet. They're all one bedrooms, as I mentioned. They do have nice, if you're on the first floor, you have your own little patio. If you're on the second floor, and there are only 2 floors, you have a little deck that's just for yourself. Next slide. This is the breakdown on the income levels. This is the one I thought you might be interested in addition to the pictures. You see on the bottom, there were 366 applications for 45 apartments. This gives you a sense of how many applications came in per income tier, how many Wenham applications came in, and where some of the other applications came in. It also gives you a sense of what the income ranges are. So if you see on the top right, the income range for a single individual at 30% of median is below $30,000 a year, roughly, and so on at the 60% level. And so there are 2 different ways people can qualify and 2 different rent structures. Do you have questions about this slide? This one is probably the one you were curious about. I'm happy to field those now or after. If you're good, I'll keep going. We'll give you some of the pictures, which are really the best part. So next slide, please. This is the site plan from back in the day. So you'll see on the right-hand side is Maple Street. So that area to the upper right is where the driveway comes in. If you drive by there tomorrow, you'll see that they're putting in the stone wall marker right in the corner. Really beautiful. I was there today. And you can see the sight line all the way around to the back. And how it ended up working out. It was originally a pretty high spot, had a lot of difficulty in navigating the topography, but they did a great job with it. It looks beautiful, and it's working out very nicely. Next slide. This is some of the early digging. You might notice some familiar faces in there if anybody wants to fess up. But this is the original when we were just doing the shovel-ready experience. So nice special shovels for that. Next slide. This gives you a little bit, again, some familiar faces. You can see this is the area at the top right where people are going in. To this is the Housing Trust. People are going into that building. There's a sort of a big entry area with an overhang roof, very lovely right in the middle where people are going to come in. Easy for people to pull up, drop somebody off, stay dry, and that's what you're seeing right there. Next slide. This would be sort of what a unit looks like on the inside. This was some of the inside framing. So that back window is essentially what people have for a back window. And this is in the way in the beginning here. This particular one, that depth is a unit depth. But this particular space will be a public area. Next slide. This is the wrap on the exterior. So I mentioned before that you would either have a little patio or a porch. You can see those two things there, excuse me, on the framing. Because this is LEED certified, you have really high efficiency windows, high efficiency wrap and insulation. You'll notice that's an exterior insulation in addition to the insulation that is between the studs and the insulation that's in the roof. Next slide, please. Stairway, very exciting. Next slide, please. So this would be the first floor units. So as you saw on the floor plan, it's a bedroom, a living kitchen area, a bathroom, and then the outside patio. A number of the units have bay windows, which I think is a really nice feature. And you can see one right there on the end. Next slide, please. Same thing, that is the bay window. I did not know that picture was there. Next slide, please. This is what it's starting to look like now. So if you go by there tomorrow, there'll be a lot of plants all around, either installed or getting ready to be installed. You'll notice some of the nice architectural features, the brick offset in the different sections, and the metal on the interior, on the roof that's in the interior, and on the individual bay windows to match. Next slide. This is what the siding is starting to look like on the clapboards. So this is all hardy board. It's a recycled material, and the trim is all AZEK, which is a durable sort of polymer. So very durable and easy to maintain. Next slide. You're seeing sort of the from the back side. This is not a public view. Next slide. You can see here some of the drainage. Fire department still here, yes. So we had to figure out how to help the fire department crews get around the back and to bear weight while it also could drain. So this is the first time we've taken a crack at this, and pretty exciting. We like it. Next slide. This is some of the plantings coming in. You'll notice on the left-hand side, it's a split rail fence that's new. On the right-hand side, which is adjacent to the abutters, is essentially a solid stockade fence, which they had requested about 10 years ago in the permitting. Next slide. More fencing, more plants. Next slide. These are some areas you'll end up seeing like anchored tables. So there's a walkway all the way around on the premise that people might want to just do a loop and have some places to sit. It's a really quite lovely setting. Next slide. More plants, as promised. Yes, you can keep right on going. Go ahead. That's the wall that I was mentioning. I think actually you took this today, Bethany, right? So this is what I looked at today. This is right on Maple Street. It's quite lovely and very Wenham and Hamilton-esque. Next slide. Hallways now. You can see how big the windows are, how much light there is. Next slide. This is that community room you saw earlier that wasn't framed in yet. Now you can see as it starts to close up. Next slide. Appliances, finishing on the cabinets. This would be the look you'd get. There is some differences for the height, obviously, in the ADA units. Next slide. Bedroom, yep. Next slide. Next slide. The back again. So this would be the patio in the back. If you're on the ground level, you see the cement, and if you're above, it's a framed wood balcony. Next slide. Same. Next slide. Yep, you'll have a library and a computer room in here. That'll be one of the other public spaces. We try to make multiple so people can enjoy quieter environments and more lively environments. Next slide, please. We do have an overnight room here. This is on the premise that you want people to be able to age in place. And so there is like home care workers or CNAs. And so we are doing this more and more where we're including a room in the event that somebody needed overnight care. Let's say they broke a hip and wanted to come home early. They want to come home. We want them to come home. And so we have the capacity to have somebody who's monitoring one or more people sleep there overnight while they're doing checks, med checks, different sorts of checks. Next slide. This is always very popular in the elderly buildings. I assume I will not have a reason to use one when I get there, but they do love to have it. So it's essentially a little room with the chair and the sink and the whole thing. People love it. They schedule it. Somebody comes in from the outside and has use of that. Next slide. These are all the people who were involved. There's about a dozen different sources of money being built by Windover, excellently. Hancock is the civil. Harbor Light, obviously, on the development side. SV Design. So all of these are local companies. There were many others. And that's who was involved, along with all of you, through the CPC and the Housing Trust, the Selectmen, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, Concom, Council on Aging, and on and on. So it was a pretty extensive process. I don't know if there is a next slide, but, you know, in the event there is no next slide, that's the last one. So happy to take questions if you like.
There's one point you need to make.
What's that, Peter?
You're paying taxes.
We are also paying taxes, yes. We pay taxes everywhere and also paying taxes here, yes. Correct.
So thank you so much for the
You're welcome.
presentation and the information and everything you've done. When will it be habitable?
Yeah, good question. So we're very close to being done. Interestingly enough, if anybody's dealing with supply chain issues in their day job, we're being slowed down at the end by what's known as switchgear. It's an electronic component, and there's some components of the switchgear that are being made in Texas that have a delay on them. So we would have been ready probably early first quarter of '24, but it sounds like it's going to be springtime before they actually have it shipped. So the buildings, we're going to be mostly done and waiting a little bit for that.
And you're full?
Oh, yes. Yeah, we'll be
You're all
full.
filled
Yeah.
up, people are ready.
Yeah, full with a waiting list. Yes.
That's amazing. Thank you so much.
You're very
Anyone else?
welcome.
I'll just make this comment. So, a friend of mine, Dave Paskey, gave my wife, hooked me up with Bethany, and we had a tour. This was like 3 weeks ago, and you were recently.
Yes, the Affordable Housing Trust toured it as well.
There's a photo.
It's- It looks like a high-end
Yeah.
development.
Yes.
From the outside. And a lot of landscaping is going in.
Yes.
So give it a couple years, and I think you won't be able to see that building.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, good-sized trees coming in on the street, as well as the, as you said, very Wenham-esque stone wall, so it fits very nicely into the community.
Yeah. Great.
So I live on Maple Street, and my husband just commented this morning, actually, how nice the landscaping looks. So we are very appreciative of the
That's
care
great.
taken with it.
Thank you. It's very kind of you.
And just a question, the 14 Wenham applicants, so as long as everything was okay with their applications, those people have first priority, is that correct?
Yeah, almost. There's
Almost.
some nuances to the way the state system works, but roughly they have the best chances.
Okay.
So, you know, a big chunk of those people are very likely to get in. Essentially, they have more lottery balls in some ways than other people do. So that's very likely. We'll know what the final number is once we get closer, how many people got in, but we're already aware of a number of individuals and stories. It's pretty cool, actually. We're excited to tell those once it's done.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very
Thank you,
welcome.
Bethany.
No, I think it's all been said, so just congratulations.
Good. Thank you. Thank you all. Appreciate your support. Thank you, everybody at home. Take care. Thank you for the slides.
Master Plan Advisory Committee update. We have a twosome. Wonderful. Thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Joanne Frischella, the chair of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. David Anderson, the Planning Board representative, and Deirdre, one of the Select Board members, is also the vice chair of the Master Plan Advisory Committee. So thank you for inviting us to give you an update, and I'd like to start with a quick overview of the master plan process and then give you more detail on where we are now and the steps to complete the whole master plan. Next slide,
David, you
please.
timing? He's setting up his timer.
Yeah, we're gonna go through this
I see.
quickly.
Thank
So
you.
the master plan is a 10-year vision and roadmap for Wenham's future. And it's a policy document that will guide local decision-making and will be implemented through an action plan, which will be the final step in the master plan. And it will address these 8 topics that are listed on the slide: housing and demographics, economic development, land use, natural resources, and others. So it's a comprehensive look at a lot of things that are going on in town. Next slide, please. This is some of the key dates about when we started the master plan back in April 2021 with approval at town meeting. and contracted with J.M. Goldson as the lead consultant and Cambridge Econometrics as the subconsultant for economic development and fiscal analysis. The Master Plan Advisory Committee started in 2020, in July 2022, appointed by the Select Board, and we kicked off with the Community Forum in October. Next slide, please. There are 13 members of the MPAC, representing different boards and commissions, and 5 at-large members, including myself. And then the next slide, there are 4 phases in the master plan process. In phase 1, we documented existing conditions which established a baseline for everything that followed. In phase 2, we looked at the vision and goals that we wanted to set for the next 10 years. We've had input from the community all along through the process. We'll talk more about that in a minute. And now in phase 2, we had a huge public outreach. That was really our main emphasis on public engagement. And in phase 3, we're moving forward with developing strategies to address the vision and the goals that were set in the previous phases. And I wanted to mention that there's a survey up on the project website right now, which is linked from the town website, to weigh in on the strategies that we've been talking about and developing. We'd love to hear what others in the community think about the strategies that we've come up with, whether you like them or not, are we on the right track or not, and we'd love to have your input as early in December, because we're going to be completing that phase. And then in phase 4, we're going to finalize the plan and move forward with adoption by the planning board. It'll be ready in early spring, and the last piece will be developing the action plan. And David, did you want to take it from there?
Yeah, that's great. So I think as part of this update, well, let me take a step back. So to put some meat to it, I think you all have participated in the work that's been done, including in phase 3 and the technical working groups. I think you all have participated in that, in the meetings in the box and other points. But just to give a fuller presentation of this, where we are in phase 3 is rounding out a process by which we are beginning to refine what I think of as a layer cake. You can either invert it or you can treat it as a wedding cake, and that is overarching core themes that are going to define the next 10 years of Wenham and the Wenham we want to get to in 10 years. And those are high-level concepts. Like, for example, the first one is fiscally and sustainably balanced economic growth. It's a very high concept. Below that on the layer cake is the goals, which are kind of bullet points about what that theme actually looks like. And then below that is the strategies that we're going to deliver the goals and ultimately the theme. But the strategies are just what they are. You've worked on these. It's going to come down to the town's next step, which is implementation. And this is a document that is being delivered to and delivered by the planning board, but ultimately it's going to come back to this board to be the point person on the implementation strategy, which is going to begin next year. So we can talk more about that. When we look at Plan 4, or Phase 4, that's really where we're keeping an eye toward, is what's going to happen come next spring when the plan is delivered. And now we have to talk about, okay, let's begin to implement what's actually in this document. Slide, please. So as we mentioned, and as you all know, there's been significant community engagement. As in anything in this town and other towns, it's always a question of the opportunity for engagement, the amount of engagement, and then reviewing for any missed opportunities for engagement. The MPAC's been extremely watchful of this to make sure that everybody who could participate has been given notice of the opportunity to participate and an opportunity to participate. I think we've done a pretty good job between the community forum last October, the public engagement and the meetings in a box, which were fabulous, as well as now the development strategies, the process of developing strategies in Phase 3, both with the meeting with the large landowners around the large sites that are the limited large sites that are available in Wenham for alternative development, as well as the technical working sessions that we've been involved in. What have we heard? High tax rate, no surprise there. We could also call that fiscal stabilization. Promoting economic development, quality of life, open space. Water has come up as a hot topic, sometimes just framed as why is the lake so low? But that's kind of a misunderstanding. It's really about how we preserve water availability and quality going forward. Strategic growth and development, building community, including as understood as Wenham for all ages, purchasing, protecting additional lands with public funds and land use and zoning. I think it's one thing to make clear is that the master plan as a document by charge under Massachusetts general law is really not designed to solve the question of fiscal stabilization. That's the scope of the master plan, is to produce a document that's a guiding document for the physical use of the land. That can be obviously include implications for fiscal impact, stabilization, and growth for our town. But the concept of fiscal stabilization, and specifically a high tax rate, is really something that's going to come back after the end of this master plan as part of most likely a larger process. Next slide, please.
Just one more thing to add to what David was saying about the fiscal impact analysis, and that is that we have a special task in our master plan that was added. So we are spending more effort on fiscal impact analysis, and Cambridge Econometrics is going to give us some more analysis, some more in-depth analysis to look at different development scenarios and possible implications for the future of the town. So this schedule shows you Phase 3, and we're nearing the end of Phase 3 now. We just recently had 2 MPAC meetings to look closely at the draft and revised strategies, and now we're nearing a final list of strategies. And then Phase 4 is what we have coming up, working towards completion of the master plan, documentation of the master plan, and developing a detailed action plan for implementation. This leads up to the public comment period in the early, maybe it's late winter, and then finalization of the master plan for approval by the planning board in early spring. And I think that wraps it up, unless you have anything else you want to add, David?
No, I think that's great.
Okay, so if we have some time, do you have any questions?
Well, thank you guys for coming, presenting. I think you guys are doing a lot of work. I'm sure that the town as well, really appreciates it. We're looking forward to that. Does anyone have any comments, questions? Gary?
I guess what's the final wrap-up date is end
Well,
of this fiscal year?
We're targeting the end of March for the final draft and approval. We'll be ready for the planning board to approve it at that point.
Sounds
And
good.
Maybe you should know this. Does this go to town meeting? No, it's just the planning board approves it and brings it to us, and
Yeah.
and then we just start working.
I think that's
Right.
that's an interesting point, though, because I think it's worth considering among you all, but obviously Roger, if there needs to be some, I mean, I know it's going to be a lengthy agenda, and it's always a struggle to keep a quorum, potentially at least, but do we want to have some type of presentation, either passively or actively, about the results of the master plan to inform the town? That's a pretty opportune time to do that.
That is a good idea. We'll have to put that on the ideas, run that by Roger, see what he thinks. Thank you for that. Deirdre?
Just thank you both for coming. It's been a great experience. We have a great group on the advisory committee, and Joanne's been working very hard, so thank you for all your efforts. Dave, thank you as well. The planning board's been participating, and it's been great to have that collaboration.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's been a great group to work with. It pulls together a lot of experts within the town, and it's just been a really good experience, so, yeah.
And we can see the end, the
Yeah,
finish line.
Yeah. Okay.
And Margaret, thank you to Margaret, who has been our backbone all along.
I mentioned that to you earlier. Margaret's been a huge help to us all through the process.
I did just want to say,
Thank you.
I just want to remind everybody that there's still an opportunity to comment, that there's a survey online, the strategies are still up there, and would like the community to please take a look at that and make comments and send them to us.
So they can get there from the master plan page on the website?
Yes, yep, even on the front page of the town's website, just click master plan and it'll take you right to the consultant's website for the survey. Okay.
Good to know.
Thank you.
for the plug. Ben?
Well, I just wanted to, give my thanks as well, and I do have one question that you sort of addressed already, and it has to do with implementation. It sounds like there's been a lot of, forethought put into the implementation phase by having representatives of each of the, various boards who have authority in land use and zoning, and the fact that Margaret's been involved. But do you feel good about kind of the handoff, and as we get ready for a report to be finalized, and then for, stakeholders within the town to begin implementing in whatever ways they need to do that?
I think that's a good question, and David, you might have more to add to this, but we've started to think about that. I think we need to give it some more thought, and as we work closer to the final product, to have a really good idea of the committees and how this could transfer into the next stage. But we are giving it some thought now.
Great.
Yeah, I think you're asking the right question, Ben, because if you take a look at this document as it's shaping up, there's some extremely ambitious strategies, and it's going to require, some of which I think can be competently handled by the subject matter experts that we have on existing boards and committees and others in our town. But there's a number of strategies that are going to require town resources to implement if we want to do it. And I'm trying to think of an easy one off the top of my head, and I can't, so I won't, but I promise you they're in there if you look at them. And that's why I kind of teed it up. I think it's going to require some, we need to be prepared to dedicate some resources as a town towards implementation, but I don't think we need to worry about that until we get there. I think the strategies as they're shaping up are really awesome and will deliver a wonderful Wenham, and we'll work through them.
Great. That's great. Thank you.
So positive, too. Thank you very much.
It's great.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. Thank you. Good time, too. So we have some annual liquor license to renew. There are two Wenham provisions at 152 Main Street. The paperwork in the packet was just a little bit because it's a recent license, so it's just being renewed. And 97 Market, 43 is the annual, tons of paperwork stuff. Everyone got a chance to look at it. If anyone has any comments, I think we should do the motion first, and then we can chat.
I move to approve the 2024 annual liquor license renewal for 97 Market, Inc.
Second.
Any discussion on 97 Market?
I think we have too much commercial development, and I think we ought to.
I don't think anyone heard you because the mic wasn't near you.
Which might be good.
Let's go for a vote.
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes.
Peter, yes.
Ben, yes.
It's a unanimous vote for the 97 Market annual liquor license. Thank you.
I I move to approve the 2024 annual liquor license renewal for Vin et Fromage, Inc. Has anyone
Second.
been there?
Second, wait a minute, oh, all right, we can discuss
Uh,
that. Has anyone been, it's been seconded.
Second.
Anybody, has anyone been to Vin Fromage? Look at the
Yes.
hands, look at that. You too?
They sell a lot more than wine and.
That's true.
in there.
Yeah. Sandwiches.
It's expensive, but the pasta's so much better than normal pasta.
Good to know, good to know. Well, you can just walk right there, it's great. Are we ready for a vote? We'll start this way, Ben.
Ben, yes.
Peter, yes.
Diane, yes?
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes.
That sounds like a unanimous vote to renew the liquor license for Vin Fromage. Well, I'll have to get there. Vin. So,
Yeah, you should. It really is a beautiful presentation they
beautiful.
have in there.
Driving down at night, really lights up the whole
Well, I
city.
didn't even realize there was a second floor when we
Oh.
walked in.
Right.
It was during the day, so.
So you didn't see all the lights, yeah. E, we have a request from 21 Longfellow, I think it's a road. Pamela, I'm not gonna say it right, Katsiris, to use the Pleasant Pond parking lot for 15 to 20 cars for a gathering at the house on Saturday, December 9th, 2023. So, is Katsiris is here?
Yeah, she's just been promoted as a panelist.
Promoted as
Zoom.
panelist.
Yeah.
If she would like to speak, we could listen for a minute.
Pamela, are you there? Oh, hey there. Yep. Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear us?
I think you're muted, Pam.
It doesn't look like she's muted, but we can't hear you, Pam. Okay. I think we can't hear her, so that's okay. Thank you for coming. So what do we think on this? Anyone have an opinion? Ben?
Can I ask some questions first?
Questions before opinions? Question first. Deirdre, very nice, Deirdre.
I just want to understand more broadly if this is something that's common in the town. Has this been done before? Is there a procedure that we've used in the past? So I guess.
I think I can kind of answer that. It's not super common. It has happened more recently, lately, I feel as
Yeah,
if.
I looked back at my email. We had 2 requests for Iron Rail. One was granted. The other one, there wasn't another scheduled select board meeting in time for the event, so they found alternative parking.
Okay.
But there were 2 requests. One was granted. Similarly to this, we went through our liability insurance, and they provided us with the requirements that you need the alternative, the alternate insurance or insurance beneficiary, naming the town in the event that anything happens, and then the requirement for the good faith attempt to collect signatures and essentially holding the town harmless for any liability for all the people who parked their cars there.
And that was provided.
Yes, the waiver will be provided, but the insurance rider was provided by Ms. Katsiris and is in front of you.
Right.
There.
Okay. Other question?
So presumably it would be open for other residents as well, right? This is not exactly a process, but there is precedent. I guess that would be my
Yes.
question. If
Yes.
I lived near a parking lot, it's,
I don't think for this particular spot, I don't think we've used it, but certainly for Pingree Park, there's been occasions, right?
Pingree Park, Iron Rail. I know I personally used the Bucher School, but I asked the school district for that, because they belong to that. Any other questions?
I had a question about whether there are abutters to the parking lot who might be impacted, by the event, and if so, whether they've been informed of the event.
That's a good question. But we can't hear you, so,
Can you nod yes or nod no?
so the question is, have you notified the abutters?
Can you unmute yourself? Or, oh, looks,
She says she
Oh.
Yeah,
was
it's not
unmuted
working.
and then-
Can you check your computer volume, maybe on the bottom right of your screen, possibly? And then, no.
Okay. So, we don't hear you, so we don't know if the abutters have been notified.
Could be appropriate to call.
She could call.
Right, yeah.
She could call in now.
She's nodding.
She's calling. Are there other questions while we're waiting for her to call in? Okay.
Okay, there is someone else under the same last name here. Is this, Pam, is this you also signed in as, okay, let me move you over here. Promote the panelists. Can you try that?
Sounded more promising for a moment.
HW Cam, is it? Not on our end.
Thank you.
Here, let me give you a number.
Okay, so, so there's no way to really hear until they get on, so.
What if we just
Can you
said,
hear us over there?
Oh,
No, they can't hear us.
yep, we can hear you.
Somebody's talking, yes.
We
Yep.
can now.
Oh, you can hear us? Okay, here. You have to let the millennials work the phones, it looks like. I apologize. So the issue was the abutters, where the house is, the road obviously is super tight, and that was what the issue was, is we didn't want to cause any concern for parking, for inviting people over to our house, and that's why. So there are really no abutters around Pleasant Pond parking area. We're the closest abutter. There is one house that's a little bit down, the Giovannucci's, and I will go over there and mention to them. But generally, Pleasant Pond parking is closed. It's gated in the off-season. So it's not something that's generally used in the off-season. It's definitely not used in the evenings. So it's that parking area is closed off in the off-season. And in the evenings, it's not used anyways. So it's not something that would be used, or nobody would be having access to it. So we're not prohibiting anybody's access to it by us using it, if that makes any sense. So us using it doesn't prohibit somebody else's using it at the time.
And how would, from the parking lot to your home, is it a lighted pathway, or would they be walking the street?
No, so we're gonna have, I actually hired one of our friends' sons, who's 20, who's going to be shuttling people up and down the street. So he's gonna wait at the parking lot and just drive people up the street and then drive them back down to their cars.
Okay, okay.
Yep.
Any other
Just to
questions?
keep people off the street.
Yes.
Just that we understood there was some outstanding issues from construction that need to be cleared up, so I guess just like some assurance that that'll be taken care of in a timely fashion.
I'm not sure this is the forum for that.
It's, I think, a germane question.
Yeah, certainly, meeting before last, whatever, we looked at one property that given the request for a special permit and determined that because they had not been in compliance or had arrears to the town, that it might not be appropriate
To allow that.
to have a special,
Okay.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, Smalley, there is a hand up in the audience as well.
Yep, so we have our occupancy permit. We've been given 90 days to, we're working on the things that we're supposed to be working on. So we're within our compliance currently, so. We've been working with the building inspector and.
Yes, I'd have to allow her to speak if that's okay with you. Her name, under Regina.
Sorry?
Sure.
Regina, are you there? Regina?
She's muted.
Can you speak, Regina?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, the only reason I raised my hand on this topic is because I just know the parking lot is not gated off-season. It's gated in-season, and off-season the gate is open because it's not monitored by the gatekeeper. So it is open and there is activity because it's an open recreation area. I just wanted to clarify that. And I'm next to the Giovannucci's.
Thank you.
You're welcome, that's all.
Okay, so, Mrs. Katsira, so you are in compliance with everything that is not the same
Currently.
information that I was
Yep.
given?
Yep, currently we're in compliance. Yep, we have our occupancy permit and we have 90 days to do the remainder and.
Is that the conservation situation?
So so right now, we did have some issues with conservation. I know that our contractor has spoken to conservation. I know that we've been asked to go to conservation on Monday. So I know that there are some things that our contractor needs to, that this was something I just got an email today, so.
Madam Chair, I did provide and email the open violation.
That happened
came
just
out of
today.
The conservation coordinator who made a site visit on Thursday.
So that was the
Right.
email that we got already?
Yes.
And
Yep, that just
that's
happened
why
today.
They are going to conservation on Monday. Do
Right.
we have another meeting where we can bring this back, just questioning?
On Tuesday, the 28th, right?
Tuesday, the 28th. Your thoughts?
Ms. Katsiris, are you and/or your representative on the Conservation Commission meeting agenda for Monday? It sounds like you.
I just got notification of it today, so to be honest with you, I just opened the email right before this meeting.
Okay.
So I haven't really,
Fair enough. Fair enough.
yeah,
Right.
The agenda's probably posted.
I can take a look.
yeah.
It's posted today. Okay. Other question?
I don't have any other questions. No.
Pete?
We can wait until the
Tuesday?
28th.
Tuesday? I think, so what I'm gathering is I'm sensing that because there are some outstanding violations or situations that aren't in compliance with all of our rules, laws, bylaws, et cetera, that we are hesitant to allow this. So if we wait till after the Conservation Commission meeting, I think maybe we'll have a better idea of what to say for December 9th. Is that, am I correct in that? Okay. Okay, so that's what we'll do. We'll put you on November 28th.
28th.
Katsiris.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. is when we're meeting? 6 p.m. Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have another presentation. I'm so excited. Hopefully it'll also stay with 10, 15-minute thing. Presentation and request to accept a set of bleachers on the first and third baselines of Blackfield and Wenham by the Hamilton Wenham Little League. And we have, standing here in front of us,
Lou Levesque.
Lou Levesque.
And I've rehearsed this about 7 times, and I'm just a shy under 31 minutes, so if I could just ask for just a brief extension.
Can we go a little faster? That's all.
This will be very quick, I think.
Kidding.
And if not, I'm going to be able to formally put that on you, because I'm going to fly.
Okay.
I will actually just follow the proposal, because it'll keep me organized. And I think it's 1 page that I'll read. The next slide, if you could. No, I'm sorry, the one prior. So really, we're just trying to put a set of bleachers at Blackfield to look very much like the ones at Cheeseman, identical, in fact, and the ones that we put at Patton just a few years ago. The ones at Cheeseman were before my time. I'm the vice president of Hamilton Wenham Little League. I've been on the board now for, I think, about 6 years. My kids have been participating in it for about 8. So, you know, if you've seen those bleachers, either at the other end of the same park at Cheese or at Patton, they're identical. We would like to put them there. The purpose, of course, is just for comfortable and safe viewing for families, but it's beyond our Little League now. This year past, and certainly next year, the school teams are starting to use it. I'm not sure if it's known, but going into last season, we took Blackfield, which was always a baseball field, and we skinned out the entire infield so that it could be repurposed for the girls of our growing softball program. And the boys can still use it. They have to now put a temporary mound there. But it is predominantly for the girls and for softball now. So now it's my understanding that the high school softball team will be playing games there next year, which is sort of why this is, this year, instead of maybe in the next few years, there's a little bit more of an excitement about creating sort of a cherry on top of what we've done at that field. We have temporary fencing, which you all thankfully approved last year, which was fantastic. The scoreboards, which you all, I believe, had a hand in. So the bleachers are really all that remain to make that field certainly the best softball field in town. It already is, frankly. So the means, as everything we do, excuse me, fully funded by Hamilton Wenham Little League, looking for no outside help with that. In fact, we already have the funds, pretty much raised. And these will be installed in unison with all the town bodies. As an update, Recreation has already seen this and approved this. They put us here today, I believe. We've spoken with Richard, building inspector, and this is sort of a simple thing for him. There's a couple sign-offs, but, and I'll get to the specs in a second. And if approved by you, we go to the Historic Commission, of course, which we learned when we did the scoreboards is actually a component of anything at Pingree Park. So we'll happily go to them next. They are low profile. They are not going to be permanently installed. I think that's important. A very common application of bleachers like this are on a cement pad. That requires a whole separate level of commitment. These, in fact, are bolted to pressure-treated lumber, so that really it would take a few people, but you could literally pick up the bleachers at Patton and move them if ever need be. So if there was an event at the park that needed one moved, we could certainly make that happen. And also it's important to know that they can be deconstructed. They are just simple ratchet sets, so we could also completely move them if ever asked to. So they really are quite temporary. Once assembled, the rest on pressure treated. I covered that. The next slide, I think, does a really poor job of showing the specs. It's all blurred out, but they're 21 feet long. They go up, I think, with the safety cage on the back about 7-8 feet. And I think that this depth here you're looking at is 12. So they're not big at all. And the next slide will show the approximate, well, actually, this shows the scale of the bleachers. That's one set, again, same. That picture was sort of just to show the scale of how they look. And then I think the next one is, same as the others, with some flexibility. So sort of a get out there and, put them in the spot where they're as close to those dugouts as possible so that they maintain kind of the same footprint, but also giving everybody some space in between. And we've unanimously voted that the dog walkers can all sit on them while they rest, because we know that they populate that park just as much as us. And the next slide, I think, is just a thank you. So that, with a typo. That's really the ask, is just for your permission to get this rolling sometime in the coming season.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. Does anyone have any questions?
Comment.
So if approved, when's installation, when they'll be ready?
We would put the order in, relatively soon. We put all our spring stuff in around now, and we'd probably wait for the weather to break a little bit. We'd be looking at the earliest, I'd say late February, and the latest sometime during the season. We do a lot, and it just takes and we have the same truck full of volunteers, so it's really a matter of, getting the crew down there to do them.
When pitchers and catchers report, February.
Yeah, they actually, January, Pingree School.
And have you reached out to the historic district yet, or are you waiting for us?
No, we were waiting for you.
Okay. Got it.
And really, that's just the answer to that. We're waiting for you.
Did you have a comment?
Just a comment. Well, first of all, your practice paid off. That was great.
Okay.
Very smooth presentation, so well done. But also, I was at a softball game this summer, and all I could think was we really need to get bleachers here because we're all sitting on the ground and stuff. So I think this is fantastic. I'm very excited to hear this.
Good
so thank you
feedback.
very much.
Thank you.
You
Do I
know, he's
hear a-
got his name on the shed.
Oh, no, I
How
did
much
not know
is-
that.
It's the Lou Lebec shed.
I didn't do that.
Excellent.
Graffiti someone was doing.
Revolutionized non-Little League baseball.
Yeah, well, thank you. With a very strong board. And I will say that that sign was hung by Kevin O'Connor of This Old House. So few people
Nice.
may know he's a townie, so.
Okay, that other town.
Yeah.
I move to approve acceptance of the bleachers and move forward with the installation process contingent upon Historic District Committee's approval of the project.
Second?
And seconded. Any more discussion? Can we go right to a vote?
Ben, yes.
Peter, yes.
Diane, yes.
Deirdre, yes?
Gary, yes.
Thank you all.
Vote.
Thank
Bleachers
you.
for Blackfield. Thank you.
All
Thanks
right.
so much for coming.
Thanks. Thanks.
You did a wonderful
Thank
job
you.
presenting, much quicker than the 30 minutes you thought it was going to
You too. Thanks, everyone.
be. Thank you.
We'll feed my kids, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Good night. Take care.
So let's have a discussion on alternative operational plans for the Pleasant Pond Beach. So we have, in our packet, there was, I think it's pretty much a summary of what's been going on at Pleasant Pond, how much it costs. There was some research done this past year. The bottom line is it costs a lot the way we're doing it now. The police run it. We have lifeguards and gatekeepers. So when I was reading it, you know, it's always great to save that money and keep it for something else if it's not really being very useful. But I was thinking this weekend that the Pleasant Pond procedure as it is now started a little bit differently, like 20-something years ago. We started out with the Pleasant Pond Association, which Mr. Moldovan?
Which one?
Yep,
One of
had mentioned. So I reached out to my inn at the Pleasant Pond Association and I heard the background on that was it wasn't being watched or it was open. It was a lot of bad things going on down at the Pleasant Pond with no lifeguard, so no, it just got overrun. And people from everywhere just flying down the street. There was an accident. It wasn't pretty. Pleasant Pond Association finally was like, no, we need to do something, met with the rec department. They've come to town before, and I believe the association themselves put together some sort of program, but they started originally with just gatekeepers. Gatekeepers to have, so that it was Wenham people, Hamilton and Wenham people in the park, and the gates were closed, and so there was less bad things happening there. So somehow we came up with the idea of adding lifeguards at some point, which of course is just gonna add a cost. It adds difficulty to the police department hiring and keeping and scheduling, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where we are right now. Not, spending a lot of money and not having a lot of usage. So I think the Pleasant Pond area and the association would be fine. We would have to check for sure without having lifeguards. But I'm suggesting that maybe we do keep some sort of gatekeeper position there. So it'll still be some money that we would have to pay out. But I think it would keep bad actors out, bad situations out. And so when I was thinking about that, I was writing my notes. Just this past year, Georgetown has a very nice area with a swimming area and a park, and was open to out-of-towners and was closed drastically and forever for the summer due to some situations with out-of-towners, and there was a lot of fighting and things going on there. So there was no use of their beach at all summer. So with that in mind, I think I would like to hear what you all think, but I actually sort of propose that we keep some sort of gatekeeper system in there. But that's my thoughts. I'm going to throw it out there and see who wants to say something.
There is someone with their hand up, so you know.
Oh, someone has their hand up. Can we wait on the hand up and see what the board says first? If anyone has anything to say on the board?
Well, Topsfield also is a beach.
Topsfield has a beach.
I don't know how they handle it.
There's two
think-
examples in the memo.
Yeah.
We read it that,
Topsfield and Buckford it was.
that have beaches without, I mean, there's plenty of examples out there with beaches without lifeguards or gatekeepers. I think that when you're looking at, like Styles Beach, for example, I think is in Topsfield, like those are much larger operations that justify having a lifeguard there. And they also charge, it's limited to Topsfield residents only, and they charge $200 or $250 a year to attend. And, we're in a situation here where it's open to the public for walk-ons, like that won't change, for no charge. We charge Hamilton residents, I think, about $50. We charge Wenham residents $25, and the delta between the revenue we bring in and the money we spend out is about $23,000. And so and that comes right out of the tax base. So you have a situation where all the residents of Wenham are subsidizing the use of this property for non-residents and Hamilton residents. So, I just thought that this would be something I wanted to point out to you, where, the alternatives, I would think, would be a more self-supporting structure, or due to the limited use, going to a model that doesn't have a lifeguard or gatekeeper. And as Chief DiNapoli is on the call tonight, and Chief Kavanaugh is also here. We've discussed this at length. They've observed the current use levels, and I know the chief would be able to increase patrol area. There would still be ticketing for people who park without a pass. Right, the pass wouldn't go away. The pricing would stay the same, but that basically just barely doesn't quite cover the cost for the DPW to, not including any of the police labor, but for the DPW to buy the supplies such as the sand and do basic repairs down there and trucking the sand in, maintaining the parking lot just for the materials. So that would cover about that, a number of truckloads of gravel and sand just to keep it up. So, with the growing pressures and Climate Action Committee and grant writing and all these things that have been brought up, we're just looking for areas where we can save money, where maybe we're spending money that doesn't have to be spent, can be used in another area. So just bringing this before the board for discussion.
Any ideas? Ben, comment, thoughts?
I would say I'm, more in a listening mode. I'd be interested in what any of my colleagues have to say, and then also the two chiefs are here. I think have some comments, and anybody from the public, and to the extent that the Pleasant Pond Association, is going to weigh in on this. I'd be interested in that too.
Okay. Any comments?
Were the gatekeepers, sorry, I don't know this, but were the gatekeepers there every day of the week, or are the gatekeepers there on the weekends?
My understanding is that we try to staff it 7 days a week with a gatekeeper and a lifeguard. However, due to the nature of the age group, that we're hiring, there is, a number of no calls, no shows, sick calls. So it results in, the police kind of scrambling, trying to track down someone. And then in the event they don't show up, I think that, the beach it operates under this model anyways.
Under the model where there's a sign that says swim at your own risk.
Yeah, and there's nobody,
And there's
there's
nobody
no
there.
staffing there.
So it's tough.
And the volume is very low of people going.
Right.
And there is a call box that goes directly to regional dispatch that anyone can pick up and use.
Gary, anything? Oh.
No, I just think we just have to remember the concerns of the neighborhood there, because we do have the history, including the fatal accident down there. But, so it's a difficult trade-off, but I think so long as we have the fire and police, and as the direct access with the connectivity now there, that perhaps certainly do without the lifeguards, and then perhaps the gatekeepers. So we have a full rosters, I think, from last year. Is there certain days, weekends, where we have more attendance that might have, a temporary gatekeepers at high volume times, if there are those, and not try to man it, 7 days a week?
Yeah, that's where I was going, yeah.
Okay. Why don't we see who's in the audience?
Can we also hear from Chief DiNapoli? I'm just wondering your take on some of the safety issues and the street speeding is like separate but related.
But can we just, I just want to hear what the.
Yeah, sure.
Yep, and then we'll ask our public safety.
Is someone else checking in, or is this?
Yeah, no, we're
Yes.
waiting for someone to.
Go ahead, Regina.
Hi. Yeah, sorry, I'm just joining in. I had talked to Diane earlier today. And just to clarify that the beach, I'm a townie, someone had mentioned that in a previous agenda item, but the beach had always been there. I happened to end up living right on the dirt road. With a small child to begin with, and so the traffic was noted. The beach was always there. It was always a safe place to be. I never was somebody that would jump in and take action or say anything. But it was one year when there was no lifeguards, and I just want to point out lifeguards was the initial thing that the beach had been manned with as long as I had known as a child. So lifeguards seems to come up as the #1 topic. But what was probably a budgetary matter again, and 1 year no lifeguards, so that was noticed, and then a second year in a row, and then it became problematic because the traffic had started to pick up, and as anybody who's been down there, it's a very narrow dirt road, windy, 1 car wide, and anyways. So it was by the 3rd year when it didn't feel safe to even go down to the beach area with our children as family. I went out myself and got signatures with my young daughter, and then all of the neighborhood concerns. And that was about, 2004. And we addressed it, and the rec department was in charge of the beach. And then the rec department had decided to not be in charge of the beach anymore. So in the meantime, in that process, when that happened, unfortunately, we knew something was going to happen, and that's when the speeding car hit somebody gardening on the side of her driveway and killed her. So something that was going to happen happened, and then everything that needed to happen after that happened. So the beach had been manned with lifeguards, and we did the moratorium, concern, addresses, safety, beautification, which was not the top of our list, happened. And for most of the years, until probably the last 5 or 6 years, it was manned with a gatekeeper. And that was all that was needed. A gatekeeper to know that when someone's going down there, there's a person with eyes on you. Do you have a sticker? Are you a resident? You can't park here. Oh, is this your first time? Do you live here? You can try it today, but you have to go down to not angry, still nice. But it gave a deterrent, so people would not just race there because it's a dead end. It backs into the woods. It's and the police department has been great. Before Chief DiNapoli was, I can't remember, but they've been great as listening and doing the patrols, because the patrols do help. But I do know that without knowing that there is at least a gatekeeper, and I'm hearing about the most busiest timeframes, that does make sense. But knowing that if the word is out that there's a gatekeeper with other people who might want to head down here, oh, don't go there because they do watch it, then it will save from the busiest traffic. I'm just concerned. It may not seem big in numbers as far as attendance, and I get that. And with the Pleasant Pond Association, which became an association in 2005 with the necessity of a voice to speak up for the pond, we've all said the lifeguards aren't necessary. They were on a bucket list of that would be great. It's the gatekeepers and the stickers, resident-only stickers, that was the thing for deterrence of a huge amount of people, not to discount anyone from out of town, but the small size of the beach and the parking lot. But always welcome to fishermen from anywhere because it is owned by the state and stocked by the state. So it's not excluding fishermen, it's just parking for the beach. I don't know if that helps. That's all I wanted to say.
Certainly. No, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Public safety, Kevin, Chief DiNapoli, and then maybe Chief Kavanaugh would like to speak.
I appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. Yes, myself, Chief Kavanaugh, and T.A. Poulos, as he had mentioned, we've had quite a few discussions on this, along with former Chief Perkins over the years. Certainly, we've had a whole lot of discussion. There's no real rhyme or reason other than weather specific as far as being able to articulate, the busier times. It's opened Memorial Day to Labor Day, and it could go, if it's 2 weeks of rain, there's not going to be anybody there. The busier days, even on the busiest, hottest days, there's not more than 10 people there. It's very, very limited. My concern, just as a dad, if I had my son or daughter there, I wouldn't want them alone as a gatekeeper or a lifeguard. I think it needs to either be both or neither, but to have a gatekeeper or a lifeguard in that area, I wouldn't want that, nor do I recommend that for safety purposes, for public safety. I just don't think it's prudent or a good idea. Certainly, either way, we will continue our enhanced patrols. As we mentioned with T.A. Poulos, is the juice worth the squeeze of the $22,000 that line item is budgeted for the salaries for the gatekeepers and the lifeguards, not to mention the heavy logistical planning through the deputy chief and Sergeant Moss specifically took a brunt of it relative to not only coordinating the scheduling, also coordinating the training, the uniforms, and then we do have a modest expense line. I think it's about $3,000, which, if depending on which way this goes, we had spoken about possibly keeping that, and if we did away with it, we would do away with the salary line, but consider maybe opting to keep the expense line for the limited amount of different required expenses that might be needed. But there's just not a lot of people using the beach on a regular basis to I think, personally justify that amount of money and time and effort that goes into it.
Thank you. Chief, did you have anything else?
I think regular patrols would handle the situation. Because they're on the road all day long, and they can loop in there every hour if they had to.
Thoughts from the gang?
Are we looking for a decision tonight, or are we just starting the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, my hope would be a decision next time, but, obviously, it doesn't happen. It doesn't have to be ever. It's just, the idea was to have initial discussion tonight, think on it, whatever, follow up with questions over the next 2 weeks, and then maybe come looking to make a decision one way or the other, or to table it.
I mean, moving the money makes sense. Concern about, roads, it's very narrow, there's probably speeding, people finding out that it's a little quiet gem and there's no one watching, some concerns, I don't know. So I'm conflicted, my mind has changed twice since we discussed.
It's another hand up.
Someone has a hand up?
Yep.
Sure.
Okay.
It's funny, we don't know who they are before they come in.
Chief DiNapoli, again, if I could just add one extra thing.
Sure.
We would certainly still enforce the parking through our enforcement patrols. Our officers would certainly be a part of enforcing folks that were down there without the parking passes that would still be required. So our officers would stay on top of that end of it, because I think obviously it would make sense to mandate that and keep that practice still in place. So I just wanted to add that as well, that we would certainly keep an eye on that.
No, I understand that.
Given the setup down there, is a security camera a possibility?
Yeah, it certainly is. Certainly is. You get what you pay for relative to the quality of the camera and the storage capabilities of it, as far as the cloud and how long we're able to maintain the data down there, and a whole host of other things. But it's certainly an option.
So do you think you want to decide this now? Do you want to think? Well,
Does someone
we
still
need
want
to know. I don't know. The hand went away.
Pars, can you identify yourself, please, if you would like to speak?
Sorry, I'm having phone issues. This is Amy Parziali. I live on Longfellow, which is right off of Pleasant. I just really wanted to voice concern about the speeding. Even with patrols, even with everything going on, there's so much speeding, and there's a lot of younger kids now. I think the age kind of ebbs and flows within the neighborhood. So I think we're at a point right now where a lot of kids have aged out of going to the pond, but we have this new up-and-comer younger group that goes to the pond a lot. And the fishermen, people visiting, the Pleasant Street is very busy, and people just drive as fast as they want, whenever they want. So my concern stems off of a lot of the safety for the kids. And we are a tight-knit neighborhood, so we're walking along Pleasant Street, we're going for walks, we go to the pond all the time for walks, and the people drive however fast they want to drive. So that I just really wanted to voice that concern, because it's a major concern.
Have we thought of speed bumps?
Thank you very much. Or some other traffic calming.
Well, it's self-built-in speed bumps on the dirt portion there, so you really can't go that fast, but it is extremely narrow, and, I can vouch too that, especially around the corner going down to Pleasant Pond has always been a problem forever. So, I see that perhaps we need a little more thought on this, because you have the cost concerns, the fact that we have very little revenue coming into that, so that perhaps something that could be waived, that perhaps it's a matter of reducing hours as far as access by vehicles might help, camera might help. Perhaps in the past we've looked at teenage lifeguards and gatekeepers. Perhaps we need a full adult and, use some of the salary line for that for weekends or whatever. But I think there's some other options that we need to look at, because, we gotta, I think, take in the neighborhood concerns first before we try to make it, it's never gonna be a paying proposition.
Right. Senior tax work-offs should cover closing it at some point.
Yeah.
But I think we have a couple concerns that we need to think about.
And we have to be aware too, that I think Regina spoke about, that there is a couple of parking spots short of the gate that have to be presented there as for fishermen's access.
Right, so that's never gonna
Yeah.
change. Okay. All right. So anything else before we move on?
I would just say that, it seems to me like there have been two categories of issues identified tonight as concerns. One is speeding on Pleasant Street, which I realize several people have already recognized is not directly tied to the decisions we're making, but it does sound to me like enhancing the patrols on Pleasant Street would be much more effective in addressing that issue than any discussion of gatekeepers or lifeguards, because they wouldn't seem to have much of an impact on that, certainly not to the extent that that our public safety professionals would. And then the second issue is the extent to which there's a risk anyway of people congregating there more so than they would with a gatekeeper there. But I take the Chief DiNapoli's point about really the wisdom in having at least two people to deal with that sort of a situation. I'm not sure whether even two, young people being there regularly, which I know has been a problem, and getting people to fill these slots is the remedy for that problem either. And it does seem like more of a public safety, more of a police function. So, I mean, my sense is that we should probably follow the recommendations of the chiefs and of our TA. I know you're not making a hard and fast recommendation, but you've spent some time on this. But I'd also like to hear from any other Pleasant Street residents, and I put a lot of stock into what Regina Baker has said, because I know Regina well, and she's been there for a long time, as she said. And Gary, you live there too, and have firsthand knowledge of the situation. But I don't think we're going to make a decision tonight. So if there are other residents who want to be heard on this, they should probably, to the extent that Gary or Regina or others can spread the word that this is kind of an open issue, maybe there'll be some other residents who will put other information on the table at a future meeting, and then we can make a decision. That's sort of my take on it.
Thank you. Pete, you have anything else?
Now, this is a definite bleeder, and
It's a tough call.
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a complex issue. I guess my suggestion would be for someone of us, perhaps, plus Steve and possibly the chiefs, but to sit down with the Pleasant Pond Association and just sort of talk some of these issues out with some of the brainstorming that just went on here, and see if we can sort of figure out somewhere to land, because I think it's not some compromise position.
Gary?
That'd be good. I think perhaps Regina Baker is still one of the leads on the association.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe we should kind of reach out. That would be a nice connection to get to all you. It definitely is a tough call, and I value everyone's opinion, the people that are there that live through it, and the public safety who know probably the best way to keep us safe. So let's see if we can set up some sort of connection with you guys. People can always reach out to us, our emails, any way they want. And the 28th is getting kind of busy for that our short meeting, but the first December meeting, is that too late? Or because I know, because the other thing is the money we have to figure out, because we have to deal with the budget. You're available Thursday? You got the whole day free? We'll come to the firehouse.
What's for dinner?
The 5th is the financial overview that'll be delivered by Jeff and myself. That's probably going to take up an hour.
Right.
We'll have obviously the final, the resolution of what the budget's going to look like that will be sent to FinCom will have to take place on that. That's the next agenda item. So, I mean, just those two things alone, I think will, it creates a pretty full meeting, but that's not to say that we can't.
But is it too late at that point?
No, that was, ideally, if a decision was going to be made, it'd be made at that meeting. So basically, that was, in my mind, the next meeting would be the financial overview, the budget, and Pleasant Pond. And that's it.
Okay.
But, there's always things that come up, like appointments and things like that. Maybe a contract to sign or something like that comes up over the next week and a half that will be added, because they don't take any time. But as far as like time takers,
that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay, so we can squeeze this one in.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And Chief DiNapoli could definitely be a lifeguard down there.
Steve?
Don't forget Joe.
Yes.
Joe's a lifeguard too?
Former lifeguard.
Wow, this is good to know. That's good to know.
Many years.
Come out of retirement.
Yes. Do it for free.
Yeah.
I think.
There is one more. I'm sorry, there is one more hand up if
There
you
is a
want to
hand up?
entertain that. Yeah. Let's see. Christina, are you there?
guys hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, this is not Christina, as you might hear. It's, it's her husband. Just one comment and one
Can
question.
you give us your address, please, too?
Oh, sorry, 9 South Street.
Thanks.
Yeah, so the speeding is definitely a problem. One question I had is, can we put in the speed indicator, the flashing speed indicator right before that curve? Is that an option, or is that expensive? I really don't know. I'm just kind of asking.
We can look into that. What's your other question?
The other comment was the last person, when I was walking my dog, that literally came around that corner on 2 wheels was the porta potty people for the pond.
They're always kidding.
Like flying. Just so you guys know.
That's a thing to report, because we certainly should be calling them and telling them that they have a bad driver. I do that. Yeah, so we take care of that, right? We pay for the porta potty, right?
We do.
Yeah, so you mentioned it to the right place. We'll have someone follow up with our company and say, change the driver.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the only thing.
Okay, thank you. We'll check into the speed indicator sign and see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, do we have a speed indicator sign?
No, we have a portable radar trailer that we can certainly put in place, but there's other options too. We've worked with DPW in the past relative to some funds that are out there. There's been a few different grassroots efforts that there's flashing signs. There's all different options and versions that we could look into without a doubt.
Okay, it sounds like it might be a thing to look into. Great, thank you. All right.
Sure.
Budget, oh, I was skipping that one, sorry. Discussion on finalizing draft FY25 budget and distribute to FinCom for review. Steve?
So this is a proposed budget, and this is basically, we had gone over a budget maybe a month ago, and it is essentially the same exact budget as that with a few additions. Two of which I identified and defined in my memo, which was the increasing duties in the clerk's department due to next year being 3 elections, a state, a federal, and a local.
One town meeting and probably a special as well?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, good point. So probably two town meetings. And the other was let me refresh.
Open space coordinator?
The annual virtual data center costs as they're from Danvers. So that's the key to making the future IT plan work. Without that, so basically those two pieces, the website I didn't include, because basically what I did was I tried to include in Kate Mallory's position going to full-time. So those are the 3 pieces. What I tried to include was the request that came through on that budget request form, summarized what the select board requested in our meeting probably 2 months ago when you voiced your budgetary priorities that you wanted to add in the budget outside of level funded, and any of the departmental requests that were outside of level funded. What I took, and it's just my opinion, but what I deem to be operationally critical, particularly like when Ben asked Dave Anderson about, are we ready for the handoff? And I think Kate, or it's somebody in that position, going from part-time to full-time is going to be critical with us being ready for that handoff to start doing due diligence and implementing the action plans that come out of the master plan. Our IT infrastructure is failing and has been for a long time. I think that this next step, going to Danvers for $15,000 a year, for us to do a data center every 5 years, we'd have to put away probably $25,000 or $30,000 a year to do a data center every 5 years. and we're investing it into technology that is obsolete in 12 to 24 months. So in this situation, you know, it puts us in a position to spend less than that, go to a virtual environment that is currently taking advantage of the latest technology and is currently working to pull in all the North Shore communities and then move into a cloud solution and they'll continue to manage it, but Danvers will no longer be the physical hub anymore. It will be, you know, some sort of a cloud solution that will be able to adapt to the changing technologies on, you know, an annual basis. So you're always maximizing your efficiency. Again, I don't fully understand it all, but you know, it's the way the world's going. So it's going to put us in a position to not try to you know, do our own physical data center and then be in the same position 5 years from now when it's at the end of its life cycle. Should be 3, but the reality of it is it probably would try to stretch it out to the 5 years. And you know what I didn't include, and I'm sure you've read it, but I can go over a few of them, is, you know, the website setup fee, annual fee, right? I think that's important, but you know, again, not critical. So I'll be looking for direction for the select board. I do think that there would be room in the capital budget for the setup plan, which I indicated on there. Budget software, that was something we brought up last year in the capital planning. A lot of interest from the previous finance committee. I'm sure the current finance committee, the select board, had a lot of interest when we talked about it earlier in the year. We've had a couple demos. So again, would be right now the initial implementation is in our 5-year capital plan to be funded this year, but the reoccurring licensing is not. So that's what is in the not included piece. We have, you know, additional full-time staffing, additional police officer, and additional fire officer have both been requested from their respective departments. Again, just the growing need for full-time and trained professionals, increase in medical calls, you know, inability to staff, you know, with a full-time officer through the night. You know, you might have, well, we have situations where you have 2 part-time officers that, you know, maybe have only worked once or twice over the past 2 months, and you know, they're manning kind of like the whole shift at night. So it's been a stated goal for both chiefs really to transition more to a standard full-time force. We have, and then again, select board request climate action coordinator to really try to move the needle on climate action. Grant writer, you know, put us in a more competitive position for writing grants and managing the process and kind of organizing and you know, just organizing the process. And then the final one that was brought up by the select board was we want to include premium pay frontline workers for during the pandemic. And those are items not included in the budget that are open for discussion tonight, along with anything else in the budget. Any questions? And no decisions have to be made tonight. We are pretty much at the levy limit as proposed. Effectively, no flexibility. We're still looking at our revenues, right? So I don't want to promise anything, but then we may be able to squeak a little bit out with excise tax, where it has been coming in relatively high the past couple of years. So that could be a small piece of money, but we're still running on those assumptions identified in the memo that, you know, we're hoping are conservative and will come in lower, which will allow for some additional capacity. But there's a potential that they come in as, you know, as estimated, or maybe even a little bit higher, right? Like as we mentioned, the school committee, their initial budget proposal is 3.7%. So that's, you know, it's 0.7% more than we estimated for. And when you think about it in terms of its impact on the operational side of the town's budget, that you can effectively double it. So it's about, we require 1.4% reduction in operational spending to balance a 0.7% increase overestimated in the schools. So, you know, those are kind of the variables going in. And I'll open it up for you guys for any questions or discussion.
Thank you. Anyone want to start? I think you did a good job.
Yep.
Anybody?
Yeah, and I just want to thank Steve because he's been doing all of this without a finance director. So thank you for putting in the double duty.
No problem, appreciate it.
Well, I think from the past few years, we see that and from the daily occurrences here, that the IT solution and also the budgeting software are critical to going forward. Those would be my two top right there.
Right, and the budgeting software isn't included as of yet.
Yeah.
Oh, $20,000 could help with that. Sorry. Just playing. That was the only one that would be covered.
Steve, are you,
anything?
oh, sorry,
I'm sorry.
question.
Go ahead.
Are you presenting the capital budget on the 5th also?
No.
Okay,
We
not yet.
chose not to do that. It was too much information for one day. We're actually, I haven't mentioned this to him, but the plan, my plan this year was to do the budget first and then just do capital as a totally separate process in January.
Okay.
But we've already met, we've already updated our 5-year plan. So it's not like we haven't started, but we're not gonna roll out any like presentations or anything like that until January.
Okay.
Because that can kind of wait, and honestly, that stuff kind of comes together at the
Yeah.
last minute anyways, because it's like, well, how much free cash, what are we gonna move here, and what are we gonna move there? So I think it's more fitting to do it like that.
Okay. And Pete? So what do we need tonight? I appreciate this, the non-contractual obligated budget. I mean, that's a nice, easy way for us to see what we could squeak in and what we can't squeak in and still come out with as best budget as we can do. So do we take a vote on this, or we say it's good, pass it on?
No, again, you can, maybe, I wasn't looking for I didn't put any vote on the agenda tonight.
Right,
I wasn't
right.
looking for a decision tonight. I figured, sit on it, talk about it. And, maybe the board, right, but the bylaw, defines that, the Finance and Advisory Committee review the town administrator and select board's budget. So, this year we're trying to do that, come up with a budget that's a select board, operationally and policy-wise in the direction, we're trying to move the community. Come up with a budget that does that, and then, we'll send it to the Finance Committee for their thorough review to go through the nuts and bolts and, make sure we're not, best practices, no one's hiding any money. We've reemployed the liaison process, so, members of the Finance Committee are out meeting with department heads, getting, intimately involved with their challenges and what drives their budgets. So they'll have a really good idea when we go line item by line item as to, what's driving these costs when we're looking at the high level salary and expense lines.
So unless I'm misreading the group, I think we're all pretty content
Yeah.
with what you presented today.
Yes.
And that I think we would be perfectly content to say, yeah, we agree with this. Let's throw it over, have the finance guys check
So
them
do we
out.
want to do, right, is there a priority? Do you want to prioritize the items that are not included to the extent that additional capacity becomes available, or revisit it?
Yeah,
I'd
it's
revisit it.
these
Should
issues.
revisit it.
I'd revisit it.
Okay.
Personally, I think you agreed with me, right?
Yes, yeah, I think I'd just assume revisit it once, we have
If
a
and
clearer
when.
picture of, I realize we don't have a crystal ball and won't even a month from now what the free cash will be, but we'll be a little bit closer to.
You have a different
answer.
opinion?
No, I think, the margin of additional dollars that might appear might itself have an effect on what be affordable. I mean, if it's
Right.
10 or 100, that could drive the decision to I'd wait to revisit.
You good with that?
Yeah, though I don't think it's the free cash that would drive whether we can fit any of these items in. It's the other
Yeah, well,
some
free
variable
cash would be a
costs.
deciding piece on on how much we're gonna spend on the capital.
On
So that
capital,
would be,
right.
You know, that would be the implementation fee for the website and the budgeting software. So I guess if free cash comes in lower than expected and that money's not there, then it's a non-starter for the other piece. You know, however, we still need the reoccurring revenue to support the reoccurring costs.
Right.
So then now we would be looking for current estimates for assumptions that were outlined to come in below, or, you know, maybe we can make a case, like, again, this is actually tying back to free cash as well. You know, how well we've always been conservative, and it's a good thing in Wenham to be conservative on your revenue estimates. If free cash continues to keep up, it's kind of, you know, what point is it, are you too conservative? And you want to kind of realize that you've kind of established a new threshold. It's no longer like an anomaly year, like, oh, we had a high uptick in excise. I use excise all the time because it's our largest single other revenue source outside of the tax levy. And, you know, first we were, you know, hesitant to go increase it 20% because, you know, maybe it's a good 1 or 2 years, but now it's been up that high for 5 years or 6 years, and maybe it makes sense to go up 5% on that, you know, 20%. And, you know, that would be something I'll be working with Jeff with, and having him build a revenue model, just so we can kind of get a better picture of that. So it's something that I've been trying to get to over the last couple of months. I just haven't been able to get to it.
Okay.
Just, I think I would wait until the 5th. If Steve's not looking for a vote tonight, it's also not on the agenda for a vote.
Right.
So
No.
wait for the,
I don't think do we need a vote?
No.
To pass it on?
You know, I guess technically not. I mean, I'm not sure it's like a statutorily required vote by the board to pass it to the select board. Probably an informal head nod.
I
FinCom.
think it's an informal head nod that we like it. It's good.
Jeff.
I don't want to.
We're giving you
So, yeah,
an informal
I
head
wouldn't.
nod.
I don't want to talk about what we would add as our wish list
Okay.
because I just don't know. We don't. You know, that's silly. But so I think you guys have it. Just pass it on. Thank you. All right, and then they're gonna present and everything at the first meeting in December. We come back.
Yeah, so that will be the financial overview. So that's not
The budget.
not budget. There will be, you know, budget pressure points will be discussed, but it's really a broader picture of what we're trying to do is make a conscientious effort. Jeff and I have talked about it, of making a, you know, what is government? Peter and I too had the same conversations. What is government, right? So, what are the services we provide? Trying to remove the dollars and cents as much as possible from, well, it's always about dollars and cents, but when you're talking about the budget, to be able to talk about, you know, what does government do? Like, what services do we provide, and try to be able to articulate it and contextualize it so that the residents can see, well, you know, we paved X amount of miles of roads, filled this many potholes, we delivered this many, you know, Meals on Wheels to seniors. You know, just kind of go down the laundry list of all the services we provide, how many students we educate. And then when the discussion comes, it's like, you know, well, we need a cut, or we need to reduce spending, and it's like, well, you know, okay, but let's have a conversation of where that reduction
How
is
it
going to
hits
come
you.
from. You know what I mean? Is it pave half the roads that we paved the year before? Right, so like, what's that gonna do for our paving forecast as far as the, you know, our road rating system, right? So we try to keep the roads at roughly average, and we're doing enough that it about keeps up to keep your roads passable and not full of potholes. So it's like we're kind of, you know, you're treading water, you know what I mean? You're keeping up with it. You cut that in half, you get away with it for probably 4 or 5 years, right? Nobody really notices. Now all of a sudden, there's potholes all over town. And it's no longer, you know, the $150,000 a year you spend on paving no longer does, you know, no longer you won't be able to catch up with that. So it becomes a significant multi-million-dollar investment to kind of then catch back up. So that's what you don't want. You just want to, if the cuts have to come, you just want to be able to have that conversation that what you're deferring will have future cost impacts to the town. And again, that's all, that's all areas. It's not, I'm just picking on
Right.
DPW, because it's kind of an easy example
Right.
to use.
Okay.
Good job.
All righty, thank you. So we have an old business, J and K, which I have to say that we might have miscommunicated what we were supposed to do with sending ideas to Steve on curriculum charge, committee charge template. So I'm gonna ask that we push that back a little bit. It was a really good thing, but we didn't get, it didn't work.
Yeah, so for clarity, we're commenting on, or channeling feedback to me on Gary's
I thought it was
proposed
fine.
template. No, it was, but we're looking, because we did two things, so we're just looking, and maybe fine, maybe that's but not everybody responded.
Right, so,
And we just want to make sure that we have separate material that I can at least attempt to either,
Merge.
bring them separately and distribute at the meeting like we did with that letter before, or if they're minimal, create a unique document that's, a product of myself and provide that to the board for
as far as
review.
a template
If anyone has any
for every
concerns with
committee,
how it's laid
not
out.
filling in with any committee, just the template. And I myself didn't get to it. And, so, let's,
So,
I
but
think it's a
then-
great start.
So I'm a little slow here. I read this, I thought it was fine.
Yeah, you're talking about the last meeting? So remember
No, I'm talking about what you sent out.
Yeah, so this was where, I think this is where the confusion was, is it seems like a couple folks took a stab at drafting the climate change and resiliency committee charge. I think the ask was to take Gary's blank template and make edit suggestions and take the proposed committee,
Yes.
member charge with, help me out here, the
template?
the
The
duties
duties.
of the committee members and make suggestions before, because we wanted to come up with something that the board agrees on.
I didn't see that. So this was Gary's version that he sent.
I thought
This is
what
the
Deirdre did
original
was
one.
great.
That's not what I did, though. That's
Yeah.
the problem. I got confused somehow. So at the last meeting, because I think we talked about both things, the template plus the climate change proposal, climate action committee proposal, they kind of got conflated, is what it looks like. So what we're trying to do, if I understand correctly, is sort of separate it again. So there's two things. There's the template for committee charge, which is the template, right? Not everyone has commented on that template. So they want to give it a little more time for the template.
Got it.
At the last meeting, we discussed the Climate Action Committee
At the
charge
same time, yeah.
right afterwards or something. I took notes on everybody's comments, took that and put it into what Gary drafted for the template to try it out, including a couple of things that were my comments on the template. So that's the version for the Climate Action Committee charge that we want to look at. And somehow they sort of got mixed together.
Right. Right.
Does that make
So-
sense?
So J and K,
I
we're gonna
thought what
push
you wrote
that
was
off.
pretty,
That's not the one, though.
But that was Gary's.
no, the other one, what you sent, the climate action change one. I just found a couple typos that I sent to,
Yeah, that's not the right version, that's the
That's-
problem.
yeah, So let's just scrap that idea. And we want to work on,
we
Yeah,
should
so we're
move
just,
to.
we're just
gonna-
focused on the charge, the climate action committee
New
charge.
charge.
Tonight, yeah.
Tonight. I'll
Tonight.
resend, what I'll do is I'll send the documents, the specific documents that Gary
For Gary, yeah.
presented.
Yeah.
And we're literally just looking for,
how we
well, I
want it.
think that,
What you think?
responsibilities should be above membership. Or, or just like, I don't think we should have a responsibilities section. We're just trying to come up, because remember, if you remember the next step is to send this out to all our boards and committee members for feedback. So we want to come up with something that the whole board is comfortable with, its layout and the way it's written, and the duties and responsibilities of the chair, co-chair, secretary, treasurer. So if there's anything, Gary did a lot of work, put it all together, so we're just trying to, everyone get on the same page, so when everybody's comfortable with it, we send it out to the boards and committees, and it has the full backing of the select board, so then when we can then kind of resolve any issues that they bring forward as their hesitancy to adopt these documents.
And so to let you know whether we have comments like that or really no substantive comments. To
Yeah,
let
right,
you know
just-
that.
yeah.
Yeah, do some,
which-
yeah, we have to respond somehow, so we,
yeah, right. 'cause
You
that
know, and
was-
if it
Yeah,
turns
that's
into
good.
be, right, and as I mentioned to Deirdre earlier today, if there's a lot of comments and a lot of edits, it becomes difficult for me to stay within open meeting law and,
Right.
incorporate them all and then redistribute without it becoming some sort of deliberation.
Right.
However, if it's mostly, not material changes or a few tweaks, I think I can, within open meeting law, I can make it my own document based on feedback and distribute it without.
Right.
okay.
So if there are a lot of substantive comments, then we would bring it back for discussion, basically,
Yes.
in essence.
Yeah. All right, we're down to L. The Climate Action Committee, continued discussion, so as I look through it, I see there's 2 in here, and then I got confused.
Right,
is this
so the one.
confusion, this is the.
Yes. The one that has my name at the top, revised by,
Okay,
is the version that I took the comments from the last meeting,
got it.
entered those in, and put it in the draft template.
Okay.
So I took what I wrote, the section that I added to the template is a background section which talks about the legislation, so it gives the context.
Right, but now what is this one? That has the same date.
That's the one, my
that looks-
revision of the
Okay,
climate action.
okay,
So I'm sorry, Deirdre, is the handout that we had in front of us not?
not right.
No, so this is Peter's.
No,
This is Peter's. In the
Okay.
packet
Yeah.
is Gary's and Deirdre's.
For the,
Most
for
recent
the,
packet.
for the climate change.
Yeah, so just the
charge
climate change.
Specifically.
This is the one we want to be looking at. It says Town of Wenham Climate Action Sustainability Committee revised by Deirdre
Oh,
on
okay.
11/20.
All right.
So it's,
All right.
yeah. So,
yeah, that looks right.
No.
okay, so this is without my marking up, and this is what she's
You
carrying.
want us to print out a couple more copies, or
Do you want me to speak to it, or do you
Yes, I'd
want
like
to
you,
read
I'd
it?
like you
or
to, I'd like you to.
you want us to print out a couple more copies?
So when was this
Yeah.
Yes,
added into
please.
the
Yes.
packet?
Yeah.
You print out.
Yeah, it's,
Michelle sent it by email first and then added it into the final packet.
Yeah, because I'm not connected to this. Just
No, it's.
There were a lot of attachments going around.
So, please go, Deirdre.
Okay. Okay, so the first section that I did add to the template is background, just to give context. So that's where it mentions the legislation and the state sort of context from which this idea stems from. And then the rest sort of follows the flow of the template, I think just with a few rearrangements. So next is the authority, which I added because it was in the template.
Actually, you just pull it up here. Sorry to interrupt, but.
Oh,
you could just-
okay.
Yep.
All right, I'll keep going while you do
Yes,
that.
please.
So the authority just basically says consistent with state goals and under the authority of the select board. We established this committee. Next was the mission statement, which is sort of the preamble. Then the responsibilities section is what I actually read out loud last meeting, and people commented as I did that. So that incorporates the comments from that last meeting with the out loud reading. The duration, I have added it as a permanent committee, at least until such time as the global climate crisis has been averted, which would be nice if that happens, but I'm not sure about that. The membership, as it stands now, yeah, that's, okay, keep going. So I added the appointed for 3 years terms with the staggered, as we talked about last time. I added a statement on quorum because that's often a confusing point when we're in committees. So I think it's good if we state it in the charge. I set it at 5 members at large and sort of with an option for Conservation Commission to participate if they choose, but so that it's not such a heavy lift by requiring them to participate because they're both potentially a lot of work. Then changed it a bit based on the last conversation that the committee may request participation from other non-voting individuals with skills and expertise, so I took out any specific people as joining in. And then the statement on committee will annually elect chair, vice chair, and so forth. The resignation and removal was from what Gary proposed. So that is, I think I added something to it, but a member may resign their committee seat at any time through notice to the chair with a copy to the select board. Members who are absent, I guess this is the part that's from the template, but we haven't fully discussed yet. So what I proposed was members who are absent without extenuating circumstances from committee meetings for 3 consecutive monthly meetings or more than 25% of meetings in a year may be removed by majority vote of the remaining members. So we haven't really gotten to that discussion for the template, but that's where I started.
No other comments? Makes sense to me.
No, this.
This part.
The
this part.
removal.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, Deirdre, if I'm asking you to repeat yourself, but our meeting 2 weeks ago, we had wordsmithed some of the numbered points.
Yes.
Can you remind us where in the document that is? It's under
That's in the responsibilities section.
Okay. I think we said climate action
So the
plan,
first one,
et cetera.
yeah, I added plan and took out sort of the topic areas.
Right.
Actually, I had the notes here, if you want me to go through them.
Number 2, I think was going to be changed, develop to suggest. Yeah, there it is, right. But the point being that
Yes,
the
correct.
changes that we've talked about have been incorporated
Yes.
into responsibilities.
I believe I got all of them.
Thank you.
Yeah, we took out collaborate with the climate action team and just left the collaboration with the government bodies.
That's number
I
3.
think those were the main ones.
Number 8,
So-
we were going
That
to
was-
add production of there it is, publication of an annual report. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
My question is, so I was just renumbering them based on the pretend template that we have. And do we need background in the charge? That's my
I
question.
mean, for this,
Yes.
I prefer it because I would like the committee to actually see the legislation and go to it as a reference point.
One problem with that is if you put in the charge and reference those particular laws, what happens when they're amended or changed? So I was looking at something that just says that instead of those specific ones, that to meet the requirements of Massachusetts state, so that, you don't have to constantly update it. But I put in, I would say, in the mission statement, we talked about the achieving net zero carbon, implementation of sustainable practice, improving resiliency, and then the fourth one, instead of that whole background thing, we just put in the mission statement on meeting Massachusetts state climate action requirements. And then the second sentence would address the fact that they're tasked with meeting the Wenham climate change resolution and the Wenham master planning.
Yeah, those are in the, well, they're mentioned in the authorities section.
Yeah.
All right, so
But
if you
that's really
don't
part of
want,
the mission.
It is.
Meeting the state requirements. That's what's really going to drive a lot of us for the municipal work.
sorry, it's in the mission statement.
It's in the mission.
Yeah.
But the authority is just by whose authority do you have? So
Yeah.
I thought it was just, select board. I like less words.
Yeah.
Select board. I imagined kind of a trimmed down mission, then the authority just being the select board, and then the duration, 3, 4. Where's 4 go? I don't know what happened. Membership, and then responsibilities. And I was not, so in the membership, I kept cutting things out, like, why are we telling the committees that you're supposed to elect every year, et cetera, or explaining how to resign? but then I had mentioned that, and Gary had said, well, we don't have it in the bylaws, so we really don't have it anywhere. I think a committee handbook is important, but yet doesn't really have an authority. So I do think that maybe in all the committee charges, we should state that you are to do an election every year for your main offices, and this is how you would resign, and if you aren't attending so many meetings, and I think the FinCom is the only committee that has that, you have to attend so many sessions before you get bounced.
But I will say, like, a clause like this would have been helpful in the, was it the zoning board of appeals?
Yes.
When somebody
Right.
stopped attending and we couldn't contact them, and so we couldn't make room for the board to appoint the alternate.
Right.
So they couldn't do their business.
But it would be nice if it was similar to the one board that does have
Yeah,
that in the bylaws.
I'm just saying, that some
Do that.
protection like that would be nice, right? So if you're non-responsive for a number of meetings, appointing a board, in this case, the select board would have the ability to remove you or something like that. I'm just, because we did get into that situation just in the past year
Right.
where we couldn't move forward.
I don't know about extenuating circumstances. And then the quorum, so now I do see the importance of doing that and keeping those things in, because originally I was like, this is silly, why are we gonna repeat that? But-
And this is providing a template for that, it looks like, is what you're saying?
Yes, originally it might, but when I first read it, I'm
Yeah.
like, everyone should know, but how
Right,
would they
yeah.
know? When you mention quorum, I understand what you mean, but I think if we're going to include it, because that's an open meeting law, so that there is a standard for that, we don't have to say it. We have to be more specific and explain. Yes, a quorum of 5 is 3, but that's whether there are actual 5 members or not. So if there's only 4 members, your quorum is still 3. You see what I'm saying? The quorum doesn't change just because
Quorum
there's a
doesn't
vacancy.
change, right.
Right, so I think that is
I
what.
think there's confusion around that.
There is
so
confusion,
that's why
so
I put
maybe it
in, but-
would, we'd be a little bit more details on that. So those were.
So you want
I
to
just
keep,
wanted to move everything kind of around, I don't know why, because that was the order that I saw in Gary's template, which I didn't make any comments on to anybody.
Could you put back up, please, background, thanks.
I mean, are we gonna have background on all the committee charges? That's what.
I think, the background is what comes to us, and then we decide and write a charge. And we lay out, the first thing is, what's the mission? Just state that's our authority to do it, this is how long you're for, and we set up, the membership rules and, put in the standard block information on resigning and so forth. And then the real key point is the list of responsibilities, and you finish it off with what's the closure requirements. But a couple of notes, I think under the membership looks good. We got the the staggered numbers and so forth. But I think when you need to put in perhaps when we have the election of the chair, vice chair, and clerk would be at the first ever meeting and annually. We got that in there. But I think we need to put in the phrase that it has to be by a majority vote of the full membership. Or,
yeah, I didn't understand that exactly.
well, because you have the first meeting and 3 of the 5 show up and says,
Right.
we're a quorum, us 3 got the offices,
So you
And
would
just
actually
because-
wait?
No, I would say that a vote for the chair, vice chair, and clerk has to be a vote of all 5.
But then you wouldn't be able to elect if only 3 people were there to start.
Well, then you have no meeting then, right? Because that's why, that there has to be some practical effort by a new committee or annually.
To connect.
Everyone needs to be at the first meeting, and if we set this up and say, hey, everybody's got to be at the first meeting because that's the organizational meeting where we're electing people. So I would not want, a large committee to be deciding on their officers just with the minimum number of people there at the quorum.
Okay.
So I just put in the phrase
At the
that,
first meeting?
at the committee's first meeting and thereafter at its first meeting of the fiscal year, the members by a majority vote of the full membership shall elect chair, vice chair, and clerk, and may assign other duties as appropriate. Then the other thing I saw was, so resignation and removal, so no, can't have committee members removing other committee members, so appointments and removal falls to the authority. So it's, the Wenham Select Board retains the authority to remove any member.
But under what circumstances? Shouldn't it?
Under any. But certainly, we lay out in specifically that, 3 consecutive meetings or the 25% over the year or whatever, that is one clear statement.
So may be removed by the appointing authority, essentially?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the same strictures.
Yeah, well, the strictures, I'd just like to see if somebody could pull up the bylaws and look up the FinCom, what
I
is there?
think the FinCom is 3 consecutive
3 consecutive.
misses without, doctor's notes. But,
Yeah, that's what I meant by extenuating
Extenuating
circumstances.
circumstances.
Like if
So-
someone's ill.
Yep. Okay. So, I don't know if is that feasible, if you miss 3 in a row? I mean, really, if you miss 3 in a row, maybe it's time to go, because
you can't.
committee can't get moving.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice if it was a little consistent that way, and that's the only committee I think that has it. The only thing I'm thinking, in this paragraph, can we separate resign from?
The rest.
A removal, yeah, just a
Yeah.
separate line,
Sure.
because they are sort of different.
5,
And the resignation,
except in
at
case
any
of
time,
illness.
through a written email notice to the chair and the town clerk, with a copy to the select board. It has to go to the town
And
clerk.
the town clerk?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It just says if any member of the Finance and Advisory Committee becomes an elected or appointed town officer or employee, or is absent from 5 successive meetings, except in the case of illness, that position shall be deemed to be vacant and shall be filled in accordance with this section.
5 consecutive absences.
Wow.
But, that could happen pretty quick on the FinCom.
Depending on.
Yeah, so I think, as you said in here, there has to be the 25% or something like that needs to be in there, because, we're not gonna kick you off
Right.
because you were sick in January.
Right, exactly.
But on the other hand, if you miss,
25% of 12.
miss a lot of them through the year, then that's also
What's 25% of 12?
3.
3.
3.
But,
I think we go
some
with 3.
committees might have more or less too.
Right,
Right.
but I think it should be 3.
The issue is if you're meeting more frequently, like you could have 3 meetings in January and you're gone in January, then you're kicked off. Where the intent is if you miss 3 months' worth. So it's the periodicity that confuses it. That's why I added the percentage.
Right, no, I would do both, but
Yeah,
I would say
So
3.
keep,
Yeah.
all right.
3 and
3
25.
consecutive, just exactly what you have, that's what you have.
Okay, good.
Never mind.
Search.
Are you guys laughing?
Like the same nationwide search, so you have
Yeah.
to find exactly what you're looking for right in your home backyard.
So in the membership, we're just working upwards then. They're appointed, so is it, when you get appointed, then you get sworn in and have to do the ethics and the open meeting law? Is that something that goes in here, or is it because it's
I think we're covering that elsewhere,
where? In the handbook?
the handbook.
Yeah, and in that case, the open meeting law, there's state laws that cover that requirement, right? That you have to be sworn in and so forth. Whereas
It's state law to annually elect chair, vice chair. I mean, so it's kind of the same, but, so I just don't know where the cutoff is.
All right.
Yeah.
Question on the duration too, not going away from the template, but on this particular committee, I would think that instead of just leaving it until it's done, we ought to put a little more urgency in there that says the committee is a temporary advisory committee until the town's climate action goals are attained, but no later than our 30 June 2040 target date. Something to just put some urgency in there. And clearly, if the issues and stuff go beyond that, well, the select board 15 years from now can extend it. But I would think that we want to.
Well, I looked at it the opposite way, that this climate crisis is permanent until it isn't, and in 2040, they can end it if it's a success and everything's
Yeah,
fine.
Yes, but, the actions that the town will be able to take are more near term here. You know, moving towards zero carbon, do the electric fleet, change the building structure, do the infrastructure. So I'm seeing that, you know, what the town will be capable of achieving is not on near term, but over the next few years, what we can get in place. And I would like to have some urgency that says, you know, this committee is not expected to get this done over the next, 17 years, but rather, let's say, that is the absolute end is 30 June 2040, but the real goal is to have this advisory committee in place until we get these goals done. So, minor point, but I just think there's urgency there to
I don't think it's a minor point.
need some urgency and, you know, a final point.
I mean, I think anyone who chooses to operate in this arena understands the urgency, so I'm all for urgency.
I think last time we talked about this, I said Bobby Knowles will make sure that it gets done.
Right, but so is this gonna be, how do you feel about
If he
making
dropped
it
dead,
a
that's
permanent committee until the crisis has been averted? Or a temporary committee with a date of like 2040 of just, bam, get this done and then see what happens?
I guess I'm not clear why, and maybe this is cutting against the idea of uniform charges that I know, Gary, you've been spending a lot of time working on, but why we have to have duration in here at all. We're creating a committee. It's going to exist, and what the select board creates,
true.
the select board, some future select board can uncreate.
I'll jump in and just say, because committees are created that are ad hoc or just advisory, and then they never get dissolved because it's not written down that it's not a permanent committee.
Yeah.
So that's, I would recommend keeping the duration, just for
Because I
that one
think
reason.
if you look
It's
actually
easier
in the
to-
books, you know, there's the Pingree Park Playground Committee, there's the, you know, there's
It's never been dissolved.
stuff that was never done. And the last comment I'll make is, I would urge that we put in, at the very end, the closure requirements in each charge. On this one, it just says, you know, the then chair of the committee will submit a final committee-approved final report on the committee's action, transfer all documents and records to the town administrator, town clerk, and notify the town clerk of the members' dates of service. Because
That's if it's not a permanent committee.
that's,
Right.
right.
Right, so in
But
this
we-
case with climate action.
But if that's the thing, then I would, if it's gonna be permanent, then I'd also put that in as something on the change of chairmanship that,
That's
you know,
true, yeah.
because we've had, as you know, in the past 2 years, you know, we've had chairmanships change and nothing is passed on, or records that are critical financially, you know, don't get returned.
And as chairs move off the board, or as members move off the board, their materials should be passed on and left with the town clerk, or they have, because we have misplaced things. But is that not?
Well, I think, so partly we're wading into the other discussion.
Yes,
It's kind of
yes.
spilling over, right?
Yeah, so
Because
let's
some
get
of
back to
that,
this.
some of that is actually in the responsibilities piece that Gary put together, like handing things over, if I remember correctly. So
Yes.
it's kind of, it's
Right,
getting a little
right.
mishmashed, I
Okay.
guess, so.
So let's vote, we want to do this, because we want to get this charge, so we can vote on this charge and get moving on it. So, I think the question at hand right now is, how do we feel about making it a permanent committee or a temporary committee?
To 2040.
Till 2040.
My preference would be to make it a permanent committee.
Okay,
Yes, permanent.
permanent. I don't have a, either way, the responsibilities are more
All right.
important to me, and so.
Yeah, so permanent committee?
So let's go with permanent committee.
So do you want to keep that in here written as such, or just take it out like Ben said?
I think we should keep it in
I
as
think
written.
keep it in, it's a permanent
All right.
committee. Yeah. Until such time as global crisis has been averted, I'm not sure that's even gonna
Yeah, I
happen.
know.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I
I
mean,
would drop that phrase,
You
but,
know, just-
you know, permanent committee with,
Okay, fine, I'll end it there. it'd be great if we can dissolve it sooner, don't get me wrong. All right, you want to take out the background?
I would like to. I'd like to see the mission
Okay,
first.
mission first.
That
Got it.
is the reason for
And
being.
in the mission, just put something,
Reference the
the
state.
Massachusetts State Climate Action Requirements. Just put that as the fourth. Because you got up there, you got net zero carbon, sustainable practices, and resilience, and the fourth thing would be meet state requirements.
Yep, okay.
So, because the committee will develop and recommend that's all there, that's in the responsibilities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and committee will form a hub, yeah, that's all, I mean, that can come out, really, because it's all in the responsibilities.
Yes.
Yeah, it was just to give it some preamble.
I know.
It needs something to start with, I think. So mission.
Does it?
Authority,
Or
well,
just the mission, boom, mission statement.
oh, just a statement.
Yeah. 1, 2 cents.
Okay. Background comes out. Start with mission, slim it down, then authority, then responsibilities.
Yep.
Then the duration, just that it's permanent. Then the membership with the change in the last bullet at the first meeting. And then annually thereafter by a majority vote of full membership. And then in resignation and removal, separate resignation from removal.
Add town clerk.
Notice to chair and town clerk. And then majority vote changes to appointing authority. Is that everything?
Sounds good.
Okay, so one last iteration for the 28th?
But
And then,
I don't think so. I feel pretty comfortable
Oh, you okay with it?
taking a motion with the charges amended.
Okay, if you're fine
Unless
with that.
I won't motion yet. Do you have something else to say?
can we just add that last closure statement then? If we're making it permanent, that, put something in there that the chair, at completion of term, is responsible for
Passing it.
transfer of all committee documents and so forth.
And so, before we even motion on this, once we do this and we start the committee, all set, and now we're gonna work on the committee charges, template, that committee is gonna get the template, and they're gonna be able to, they can play with it too, right? We just have to get it started.
Well,
So
they
this-
might not have to, but.
They might not have to, but it depends on what the template ends up being,
Yeah, I think it's
right?
close.
It is close. So anyway, I would take a motion to approve the climate action and sustainability committee charge as amended today.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
No more discussion, right? I wasn't leading that at all. Let's take a vote. Gary?
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes.
Peter, yes.
Ben, yes.
I think that is a unanimous vote for a climate action and
It's a mouthful.
We
we
have
got
minutes. Did anyone look over the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Does anyone have any comments on the minutes?
No.
I did look at them. I had no comment.
And no comments, awesome.
There was
So-
some kind of a weird typo somewhere, but
Really?
I think it was just
Didn't
like a,
catch it.
let me find it.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, it's not important. I agree. It was an inconsequential typo.
I mean, if it was
so-
8 o'clock, we would worry, but it's 9, so.
It's not going to change the meaning of what the bot, or who, that's not fair.
It's not the button, no.
No, no, no.
So I
She's,
move
she's
to
good.
approve the Select Board open session minutes dated 10/10/2023.
Second.
Vote?
Gary, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes.
Peter, yes.
Ben, yes.
Unanimous vote to approve the select board minutes, the open session minutes.
I move to approve and hold Select Board executive session minutes dated 10/24/2023.
Second.
And do we say and to hold in there or release?
He said hold.
He said
Yeah, that's
hold.
right, yeah. all right.
He said to hold. I had one typo, I don't know if you guys saw it.
There was, it said,
Material?
Sorta.
yeah,
We call her
the
Mc-
street was misspelled in one place.
Oh, I didn't see the street.
Yeah.
I saw that Michelle didn't use her name, she just called herself McGovern. I asked her to put her name in there, but that was it. But there was a typo on a street?
Yes, and I'd have to look it up to
Okay.
recall what street we're talking about, but there was, the street was mentioned several times, and then it was pluralized once, but again, doesn't change the meaning of it, and
And it's good.
Ministerial changes we can be
Ministerial
done by
changes,
Michelle
yes.
anyhow. Right.
Thank you.
yes.
And let's vote on that.
Gary, yes?
Deirdre, yes.
Diane, yes?
Peter, yes?
Ben, yes.
It's 9:04,
Okay.
Gary.
It's 9:04. Our next meeting is actually next week. It's a busy week, as far as I know.
10:28
week,
at 6.
We have 10:28 at 6 with a little bit longer agenda than we originally scheduled. Wednesday, the 29th, we have the all-member boards at 6:30. That's at Bucher. Monday, meeting on the handbook. Monday morning at 9.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Anything else next week?
School building committee.
CPC,
CPC, I'm sorry, CPC
Sure.
is meeting on
Tuesday.
Tuesday, the 28th. and the
6:30.
School building
School building committee meets Monday night.
meets Monday night. And we had some flyers we're gonna leave out. We can take some, but we can leave them in this town hall about the school building committee and what they're working on. So, you guys, you did an awesome job. Thank you so much. We had a full house. We still have 2 people hanging in with
The
us.
FinCom, go FinCom.
Yeah, and they're still awake. I wanna thank you.
Representing.
Everybody today, that was great.
9:05,
Can I-
Gary.
just one scheduling thing.
What?
Sorry, just real quick, the December 18th meeting, which is close to the holiday, is the middle school concert. So I'm just wondering,
Monday, December 18th?
no, sorry, 19th,
Okay.
Tuesday the 19th,
Tuesday the
we're
19th.
scheduled.
Okay.
It is the middle school concert in which my daughter is performing, so I'm just wondering, usually I can't start earlier, but if it's possible to start earlier so that I can come for some of the meeting, because I can't skip the concert.
So what time would work that you
Concert's
could
at
get it?
7.
At 7?
So just earlier would be helpful.
As early as you can.
You guys are happy with early?
I can do 5:36.
Want to do it, can you do earlier than
9
that?
a.m.
I mean,
What time can you all
I
be
can-
here?
be here earlier.
I think
Do you want
Ben's the working man
1,
here.
5?
I can do it earlier as well, so I'm open to.
You want to try as early as 4, or is that crazy?
Oh,
ask?
wow. I'm just hoping for earlier, so it's whatever you all
Yeah,
can do.
But if we started that early, would it be too much for you to stay that long and then go to the concert, or do you want to come at 5?
Whatever
I think,
works for
I think
people.
we're pretty flexible. So
Yes.
give us a time.
You sure, Ben?
Yes. Yeah.
4:30?
4:30.
Oh, that's too early.
Steve's like, yes.
Sold.
So 4:30.
on the 19th.
Yep, we might establish a new precedent.
Normally I can't get here that early, but that week I can.
And we're set on that Saturday is going to be a 9 start, the 16th, is it?
Okay, there's a problem on the 16th as well, because
That's
it's,
Saturday.
Oh,
it's
the veterans.
Wreaths Across
America.
at noon.
Right.
There's not another Saturday we can do, to be honest, right?
So could we not just adjourn for an hour if need be?
I suppose we could do that.
I will say that I'm hopeful that this year, with the removal of
Capital.
capital and the attempt to get out of the weeds and spend a little bit more time on, service delivery and it being a level funded budget, that if we started at 8, I would think we could be done by noontime to go to the Wreaths of America.
All right, let's go for it. Do you hear that? 8 to noon.
That's the target.
Hard stop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good call, everybody. Gary, it's now 9:08.
Yes. But I move that we adjourn the Wenham Select Board meeting of 21 November at 9:08 p.m.
Second.
All in favor?
Ben, yes.
Peter, yes.
Diane, yes.
Deirdre, yes.
Gary, yes.
Thank you guys very much. We are off.